That's my baby. I'm dying.
That's my baby.
We're going at it at 110%.
I just want 5 minutes of happiness, please. Just give me 5 minutes.
And they scored. They did it.
Left.
What the hell was that? Oh, yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Oh, yes. Does anybody ever know what the hell we're talking about here on the weekly roundup? Between me and Daniel, it gets out of hand in a hurry, doesn't it, sometimes, boys? This is the weekly roundup, A2DRadio.com. I'm Zach. That's Daniel. We are here Tuesday night. Used to be Saturday nights now. Tuesday nights are a new day, new time. And, same shenanigans, so that'll never change. But yes, Daniel, how are you tonight?
I am good. I'm ready to talk about a lot of these topics that we have for you. We have a nice poll question to talk about. I didn't think it was going to be possible that it was going to happen. But
we had to do some fandangling or, that's a good word to use, fandangling or something, yeah. Back and forth. We kind of fought for it. And had to go to the higher ups, and we got our way, and ended up being able to talk about something that we got history in the making going on that might never happen again in baseball, with Albert Pujols, chasing 700 home runs, and it's something that he'd be the fourth guy ever to do it. But I think more importantly, he'll probably be the last person to ever do it again. With just the way the game is trending, you'll never ever have anybody come close to this milestone. And it's special stuff that I think all of us as baseball fans really need to treasure as it kind of winds down. And if you're looking to buy or sell a home or looking for a change in career or brokerage, you can contact Alan Foy of eXp Realty LLC. eXp Realty. Contact Alan Foy at 302-682-8820 or visit him at alan.foy@exprealty.com. As always, our sponsor for the weekly roundup. Will Albert Pujols get the 700 home runs, or Albert Pujols will get the 700 home runs? Agree or disagree? And I think when you look at it and you look how hot he's been, Daniel, it's hard for me at this moment. Before the year, I would have thought impossible, but right now, 6 away. How do you not get there at this point if you're Albert? Hell, I think I joked with you last week when we were talking about it. I said, at this point, you got a month left in your entire career. They're not going to drug test you anymore. I'll stick as many needles in my ass and take as many supplements as I need to take from this point forward. Fuck it. And, at this point, like if we got to get 6 more to make sure that we can get the 700, you got to find a way for that to happen at this point, don't you?
Yeah, before I give you mine, we got some comments here. Amanda I have questions. My first question, what was your reaction when Bryce Harper came back? My second question is, what did you think of the games against the Pirates? And also, what did you think of the game last night? And what do you think of the bullpen last night? I'll just break it down for you. I think my first reaction
when he came back was a lot of questions in one question. I feel like there's too many questions there.
I would sum it up. It was a great thing to get Bryce Harper back. Missed 53 games. We played great without him. But he adds that big bat in the middle of the lineup that we need. He's our best hitter. He's probably going to be playing DH. And then I thought we need to beat the Pirates like we did. We need to beat the teams that are bad. Of course, we're down 2-0 right now against the D-backs. This is a team that we need to be beaten. That's the update right now in the bottom of the second. But, we did what we had to do then, and we still got that a game and a half lead over the Padres, 3 games ahead of the Brewers. We're doing what we need to do. And Ranger Suarez has been a hot and cold guy. That's what he's been all year. He either pitches great or he pitches great, and then he has a bad inning. And that's what happened last night with him. And then the bullpen kind of had a debacle right after he got pulled. I don't think that's going to be a usual suspect for the bullpen. They've been solid all year. It's just one of those games that it got away from them, and it happens. They need to beat these teams, but, they were on a tear before that. So you kind of expect them to come back down to reality a little bit. Then they're not going to win 15 straight games.
I think all of this, and this is part of why, when we were fighting, earlier, as far as what we wanted the poll question to be and whether we should go with Albert Pujols, which is what me and you had kind of, we felt like it was a good way to go, or to do something Phillies Diamondbacks related. This is why we fought so hard for the Pujols thing, because it's, this is something that the Phillies were up 7-0, and if they win that game last night, we're not even talking about this series right now. That's how irrelevant this series is. We might talk about the game tonight a little bit because it's Nola against Gallen. Zach Gallen's a local kid from South Jersey, played at Bishop Eustace there in Cherry Hill. Things that kind of make it go, oh, okay, that's intriguing. We got our Phillies, going against Diamondbacks with a local kid on the mound. Great pitching matchup. Tonight's game was a little intriguing. But the only thing that really, all of a sudden makes this series somewhere we've got to talk about it is because people want to overreact to what happened last night. And I think that's what that is. It's just a total overreaction, Yeah, you're right. It got away from you. You kind of got punched in the mouth a little bit and didn't know how to react. One of those situations, you're up 7-0, all of a sudden, you're comfortable, everything is smooth sailing, and you get punched in the mouth. And it's like Mike Tyson used to say, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth, right? And we got punched in the mouth and didn't really have a game plan for it. And you're like, oh, shit, that hurt. Yeah, it did, and okay, sometimes that happens. But it's I don't know. This is a series against the Diamondbacks, unlike last year in September when we got swept, out in Arizona down the stretch. This is one of those things where, okay, you might have a bad series on the road, especially when you're an East Coast team that goes on a West Coast road trip. This is what happens sometimes. You go on a West Coast road trip, some sketchy things happen. It's okay. You weather the storm. You're not too worried about it right now. You just you can't let something like last night derail the rest of your season. But I don't really see that being the thing. This is just a different team at this point. You still control your own destiny from a wild card perspective. You're still fine. Don't overreact to something that doesn't need to be overreacted to.
What do you think
and
of this
that's kind of what that is.
Ted is saying, do you guys think it's lean the way he's getting a shot at 700 by DH?
No, that's a stupid argument, Ted. Get the fuck out of my chat room. I'm sorry, Ted. I've been drinking a little bit. I didn't mean that entirely. I meant it a little bit, not entirely. But no, that's just stupid. Who cares? Really, Barry Bonds could have DH'd if he wanted to. He just played in San Francisco, for God's sakes. Probably Barry Bonds could have. If Barry Bonds would have went and played for a West Coast team for the final 5 or 6 years of his, which he could have. Let's be honest, he had a chance to do it. Barry Bonds could have played another 3 or 4 years, for God's sakes. I mean, I don't know. That whole thing to me is silly. It's. I don't know why. It's been a position in baseball since the 60s. Baseball decided it was a position. Now it's a position in both leagues. Whether people want to I don't give a fuck how people feel about it, but it's a silly argument. The reason I get so fired up over a thing like this is because people make this case for why guys like Edgar Martinez or David Ortiz shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Hey, listen, I don't. It's silly. It's ridiculous. It's a position, in the batting order, and just like any other position. You got guys that are really, really good at it, and you got some guys that are just dead. And the guys that are really, really good at it should get rewarded.
And right now, update now, it's 3-0 Diamondbacks. Bottom of the second, they got a man on first and third, 1 out. But with me, I feel like the AL had a DH all along, so why does it matter that the NL has one now? And I feel like I'm going to agree to this poll. I think he gets it, knowing that there's only 6 home runs left. He came to a perfect situation. He was in the Angels organization. He wasn't playing that much. He was basically coming off the bench for him. And then you have him go out everywhere. He comes back to sign a 1-year deal with the Cardinals. They weren't expecting him to do too much, but maybe DH and play part-time. He played himself into almost a 4-time job this year at DH. With his hitting, I believe he's hitting 280 right now on the Cardinals. He has 14 home runs, and he's doing a lot of it lately. And he's gotten hot to the point where, he made this discussion happen. We didn't think the discussion was going to happen because we thought it was too far away.
Before the year, you thought you had no chance, right?
Yeah. but now he's hitting, like, he had a couple games ago, he had 2 home runs. He had 2 home runs before that. He had a home run the other day. Like, all this in the past couple weeks. And now and this is before September. He still has a good 20, 25 games, maybe 30 left in the season where he only needs is 6 home runs. So he can kind of space it out and get to it. And what better team for him to hit the 700 home run than on the team that drafted him, the team that brought him up, the team that gave him his big league debut in the St. Louis Cardinals. It's just kind of crazy how it works out for him.
All of it, you could tell he's kind of enjoying being back with Yadier Molina and Adam Wainwright, and they're kind of all the old heads in a clubhouse that it's like that. They got a fun little dynamic there in St. Louis, right? Some old guys mixed with some youthful energy, and it's a good mix, and sometimes when you're just really comfortable, that also helps. But yeah, I think I look at it from a baseball perspective, and you go, how can you not want this to happen if you're a fan of baseball? If you're somebody that's just any type of fan of baseball, how can you not want this to happen? You're never going to see this again. Never. You know what I mean? It's just like this is one of those things where there's 2 things that'll probably never happen again in the history of baseball, and that's somebody getting 300 career wins as a pitcher, and that's somebody hitting anywhere close to this amount of home runs as a player. The game's just changed. Pitching, guys don't go as deep into games like that the way they used to, in ways where you're going to win 20 games in a year. That type of thing is rare. And they hit this many home runs. Mike Trout's probably he's going to get 500. Something like that'll happen. But it's a durability thing where, like, you look at it and you go, these guys, guys don't play every day anymore the way that they used to, and 2, the way things set up physically from a training perspective and all that, it's just all, things are designed to Ted needs to be brought up to date. But yeah, things are designed where they're so worried about players' health and different things like that. Like, guys are so protected, you're just not going to see things happen, in a way where, like, it just players are put in positions to be able to go chase down and achieve milestones of this kind. The pitching thing is definitely never going to happen again. 300 wins is just never going to happen. 500 home runs. I mean, I don't want to say it won't happen again, but that's another number that you just like, it's going to be, really rare for somebody to approach that number. But 700, I mean, forget about 500, you know what I mean? But 700, you're talking about Pujols would be the 4th guy in the history of the game to do it. And Major League Baseball has been around for over 150 years, So this is something that's like, it's just all time, levels of historical. We're not even talking about 500. That 500 home run number, that's a number like, Miguel Cabrera. You want to talk about how hard it was for him to get 500, right? Like, this is a guy that's career has been going downhill for a long time now, and he stuck around until this year to finally get to that 500 home run milestone. And you're like, man, like, this is a guy that was a generational hitter, and it's like, look how much of a struggle it was for him to just get to a number like 500. And you're talking about a guy like Pujols approaching 700. This needs to, it deserves to get probably more attention than what it's getting currently at the moment. But every bit of attention that it's getting, it deserves, and it probably deserves even more than that. I can remember, and maybe as you get a little bit closer to it, this will happen. But as Barry Bonds was coming up on all these milestones, I mean, I remember being at dinner and shit as a little kid out at restaurants, and whatever was on the TV, they'd go live to wherever the Giants were playing at that time. Anytime Barry Bonds was at the plate, no matter what channel you were watching, because it was that big of a deal where we've got to go, live to Barry Bonds to see if he can break Babe Ruth. He's going to try to pass Babe Ruth here, and no matter what, that's what it was, live to wherever San Francisco was playing, just to see the result as it happened, and that's how this should be treated. It's historical stuff that, like, anybody that's been a fan of baseball long enough should understand. Just how rare it is.
And I feel like this is a big guy that we've talked about for the past 10 years, but I feel like it's kind of, in a way, flown under the radar with how how many home runs that he hits because people don't talk about it too much. There's so much talk
because he was all around hitter, right? Like you don't even talk about the home runs as much as like this dude was a triple crown candidate.
And let's not forget the fact that when he broke the league, he was catching first, outfield. He did left field, right field. He even did third base. He was kind of like the ultimate.
Yeah. He played. I think if you go look at his numbers, his rookie year, he played third base, left field. I don't think he moved to first until the next year. I don't remember who was playing first in 01 when he came up to the Cardinals.
I think he caught like 5-6 times that year. Like,
did he? I don't know. I have to go back and look at that. Yeah. I remember. I think Mike Matheny was their catcher, and Yachty became a rookie like the following year. So I don't know. I don't. But I do remember. He played a lot of third base definitely early on. But that was another thing. You just remember him stepping in 01. It hit like 338 his rookie year. Hit like 37 homers. You're like, who the fuck is this guy? You know, like what the good. Well, yeah, Sammy. Don't forget Sammy Sosa. What compared to what?
I think he's talking about just like watching him hit a lot of home runs because he did.
I mean,
over 6.
I guess. Yeah, I mean it's. Right. There was all that. That's kind of what we're talking about. There was all those guys in that era, right? That like were all kind of chasing that number. Alex Rodriguez ended up 4 short or whatever it was. But the longer we've gone, now over the past 20 years, the more you seem to realize. Yeah, I think when I was a little kid, it seemed like one of those things that just like, okay, like everybody's going to hit home runs now. This will be something that, this will be fun to see how many people can go accomplish a feat like that. Like you didn't, I had no idea as a little ass kid. Like it seemed like while everybody was juicing in the steroid era and all the home runs that were being hit, you didn't realize just how rare this was. But now, like in the 20 years since all that, from the McGuires and the Sosas and and Bonds and watching all those guys throughout that time, you just realize. This is something that we took for granted for way too long that things like this will happen. And
and he was even just like you said, he wasn't even just a home run hitter. He was one of the best hitters in baseball. If you look at he was the best hitter in baseball.
How about this? If you look at a number, look at a number like OPS during his prime, like he had 3 different seasons with an OPS of over 1,000. To give you an idea of how elite that is, Miguel Cabrera's only had like 1.
He had 8. He had 8 seasons of OPS over 1.000. That's crazy.
8 seasons of it. Okay. Yeah. 8 seasons of it. Okay. See, so I was way off, but that's just I didn't give enough credit, right? But I knew it was a crazy number, right? But he's had like an insane amount of those seasons. I think Miguel Cabrera's had 1 or 2, but you're talking about 2 of the guys that like you look at and go probably of our generation of the past 20 years, they're probably the 2 best all-around hitters of the past 20 years, Albert Pujols and Miguel Cabrera. And even when you look at them, you go, Albert Pujols is still in a league that's so much like as good as Miguel Cabrera was. And Miguel Cabrera won a Triple Crown. Pujols could have. It just circumstances, things played out in a way for Miguel Cabrera in a year that, he did win the Triple Crown. But you're looking at those 2 and you go, yeah, I'd say in my lifetime, in my 30 years of living, those are probably the 2 best all-around hitters I've seen, with my own eyes, and they played in the same era. But with that being said, Pujols has 200 more career home runs. You look at the batting average, the all-around numbers, like you said, the OPS numbers, and you're like, wow, that's how good this is. Like, there's still a huge gap between those 2. And Miguel Cabrera is an all-time great, going to be a first-ballot Hall of Famer. But that's how good Albert Pujols is. That his numbers still. You look at Cabrera side by side, and you go, "Wow, damn."
He didn't hit under 300 until year 11. 11. That's
insane.
And that year he hit 299. It was 0.001 off from still hitting 300 that year, and that was still. And those 2 years that he did that, they weren't even his best years. And he still had 30-plus home still 100 RBIs, and 8 stolen bases those 2 years. So he's still
like an insane year. Like, you're still having a great year by normal standards.
Yeah. But, like,
I think we spent a lot of time in this fan base not appreciating, at least early on, what we were watching, because you had a guy like we had Tomey, then you had Howard, and it always felt like you were kind of, it's a little bit of that personal competition, right? Like we've got our guy and we want to root for our guy and we want our guy to have as much success as possible. And part of that is rooting for you to not have as much success as you're having, sort of thing. And then 2011 doesn't help when the Cardinals, go and beat us in the, in the playoffs. So things like that where it kind of, I think you just kind of, and you looked at it as Phillies fans, and also Scott Rowland going there in the trade made it a little bit where there was a lot of Phillies fans that looked at that team and went, fuck them, and you kind of rooted against them, for reasons.
And then that playoff year, and then when we lost in the playoffs to the Cardinals, that was basically the decline, the start of the decline of Ryan Howard when he injured.
Yeah, it was the end of everything, right? It was the end of that great run where you had the five straight NL East titles and the 2 World Series appearances and the World Series championship and winning more games than in a 5-year stretch than any team in history doing that. It was and it ended ugly, right? You crashed and burned. Like in just an ugly sort of way. And I mean, those things don't help, but I hate, I've learned as I've gotten older as a sports fan, like I hate the idea of hating. You need to appreciate greatness as it's happening in front of your eyes because it doesn't last forever. And, anybody that's been around sports long enough knows that, you understand that, that, no matter how it might be, or no matter how much he's this good and he has this sort of success against your team or whatever, this is a sort of thing that it doesn't come around and happen every day. When you're living the life of a sports fan, so you appreciate these things as they happen, and you cherish it. And that's kind of like what where I think. I'm at it took me a while to get there with guys like Tom Brady, but I think the older I've gotten, the more I've come to that conclusion as a sports fan. And I don't play that game now. Like even as a Philadelphia sports fan, I feel like there's way too many people that don't, and you're like, you're talking about 40-year-old grown men that'll sit there and be like, I still remember that time back in whatever, when he hit the home run and it was the 9th inning and we had a lead, and then all of a sudden, okay, so you're going to sit here and be this petty and this stubborn and hate a guy because of a play he made against your team personally. Okay, well then you know what? Tell your team not to suck so much and let that guy make a play against you. I'm not going to sit here and hate greatness and not appreciate what I'm watching with my own eyes. Because of my petty loyalty to my own team. That's silly. So I don't know. For me, I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit different. I don't. Maybe see, Greg's somebody that gets it. Greg and me view things kind of similarly in that way. Like, what I mean? Like, you root for this as a sports fan. You want this to happen. You want it to happen against your own team. Hell, like fuck it. I don't give a hit. 700 against the Phillies. Go ahead. Like, I'm cool with it.
And then look at the guys in the top 5. There's only, I think Hank Aaron is the only one, of course, that never got thought about of using steroids because I was before that time. But you got Bonds, you got A-Rod, you got, of course.
I mean,
I think Babe Ruth. Of course, he didn't get.
They were all juicing, Babe Ruth with the famous story of the sheep testosterone.
Yeah, but you got a guy in Albert Pujols who I think got suspected of it once. They had no proof of anything, so they kind of just like. Yeah,
he was never. He was never suspended or technically failed drug test. But I mean. Listen, especially early in his career, he was totally juicing, sure. Yeah. But, I mean, you remember we had Rafael Palmeiro on. I told you, I don't give a fuck. Yeah. Let all those guys in. Juice all you want. I don't give a fuck.
But with all the craziness of this, though, it's perfect for baseball because you got a guy that he probably was using it before, but he never got suspended, and he's going to break 700, and then there won't be that asterisk behind him of, this guy juiced and he got suspended because he never got suspended, and he's more than likely going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and it's going to be a good thing. And it's going to be a good thing for the league because then you're not going to have any dispute about it. It's going to be like he did it, he's good, no disputes about this. You can't do anything about it. Just let him in first time because he deserves to be a first time Hall of Famer. I think it's close enough to where he should be almost 100% with how crazy of a player he was with it hitting.
He should get a higher vote percentage than Jeter. I'll put it to you that way. You know what I mean? Like Jeter got 99.9 or whatever, and people may, some guy didn't vote for him. Great. Like, I don't like more people should have not voted for Jeter. Like, most overrated player in the history of baseball. First ballot Hall of Famer, sure, but you only need 75% of the vote to do that.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, Pujols, just like generally, you compare, like, people go, Jeter got all the love during that, during our generation, as far as being like the guy that was like, the face of baseball. Like, if Pujols plays for the Yankees, he's the face of baseball. You know what I mean? Like, he's and like it's just one of those things that's probably not. It's like you're like it's like not even close either. You're not even debating it. Like, you're playing certain markets and things help you, but I mean, generationally speaking, of all the players in the past 30 years, that have debuted, I mean, nobody's. Him and Barry Bonds are the two guys you look at and you go, you're the two best offensive players of that time. And it's not close. It's not close. Like, it's just not. And Bonds, obviously, you're going to have your people that are going to have issues with the fact that he was juicing and the steroids and all that and whatever. I don't have an issue with it, but I mean, you're talking about two dudes that, like, the numbers that they put up, it's insane to think about. How good they were, how insane the numbers are that they're going to accomplish when you look at it on their Cooperstown plaques. And I say both of them because Bonds will get in at some point. I still believe that. I don't, whatever about, whether the 10-year window, all that. At some point he gets voted in by a veteran committee, by something. Something happens where all these guys that have been kept out, Clemens and Bonds and all these guys that are not in the Hall of Fame simply because of steroids will get in. But when you go and look at those numbers on their plaques and you go, my God, wait, he hit what? And he hit how many home runs? And he had what type of on base percentage? And in Bond's case, all the intentional walks and the walks in general and the different things like that. I mean, it's just things that, like, no matter how many home runs Aaron Judge hits, and Judge is going to be a guy that could hit 60 home runs this year. And that's another fun conversation, right? He goes and hits 60 home runs, or say he hits 62 homers. There's going to be plenty of people that are baseball purists that consider themselves purists that'll say, he should be the true single season home run champion because he wasn't on steroids and then there's nothing tainted about it or this and that, and that'll be a conversation we'll have to deal with for fucking ever and ever, and it'll drive me absolutely insane. But no matter how many home runs he hits, and you're probably talking about the guy that's the best home run hitter in the game right now. Think about it. He'll never, ever, ever come close. He might not even hit 500 career home runs. He'll never, ever come close to sniffing the types of career numbers that a guy like Albert Pujols has put up. And that's like, it's insane. Like, you got to appreciate that. But, like, you don't realize it until it's over almost, right? Like, we do this with everything. I don't think that, no matter what sport it is, anybody that's in the golf, you did this with Tiger Woods. Yeah, you knew Tiger Woods was great. You knew you were watching somebody that was just in his prime. It's like, this is like unlike anything you've ever seen, but you didn't appreciate it because it was happening. Then it came over, right? And it's like it got to a point where, like, Tiger was like, is he ever going to win again? And all of a sudden you miss the days of Tiger dominating to such an extent, as a golf fan, where you watch, like, man, this dude won a U.S. Open by 12 strokes one time. You're like, holy shit. He was the only person under par. Everybody else was over par. He was the only person under par. That's how good he was. And in the moment, you're like, oh, man, like, great. This is boring. He won a U.S. Open by 12 strokes. But 20 years after it happens, you change your tune about it and you realize just how special it was. And that's where you're at with this. 20 years from now, you're going to look back at Albert Pujols' career and go, man, are we ever going to, you're going to wish you're going to miss the idea of having a guy that was that good playing in the sport. You know what I mean? And a guy that was putting up numbers of that kind.
Well, just like at today's game, because even though there's a lot more home runs being hit now, and it's more of a home run or strikeout league, as a whole, the whole league is hitting more home runs, but the count at the top isn't as high anymore. You're not hitting that 50 or 60 mark that much. You might get a guy that might hit the 50 mark, but that's it. And then you might get one or two that hit 40, and then the rest are like 30, 20, 10. Whereas 10, 20 years ago, it was like 3 or 4 guys hitting 50 plus, maybe a guy hitting 60. But then you had so many that were hitting 40 or 30 or 40. So even though the game has evolved into more of a home run hitting thing, it's more about the quantity of guys doing it rather than how many a certain guy is hitting now, because they're not hitting as much, because I feel like the hitting is down. You're not getting guys that are all these guys hitting 300 or more. That's down by a lot. That they might be hitting 310, 320, but gone is the days of guys hitting 350, 360, those Tony Gwynns that are just hitting all these singles.
Yeah, that'll never happen again.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's I think the closest is going to be what it is now, where you look at Harper. If he was playing still, he was hitting 330, and that was one of the best at the time. And I think it still is. But that's high for this current MLB game. Whereas before,
Pujols on a stretch, and you talked about it earlier, right? Like a 10-year stretch where you're hitting like 320 every year to go along with like 35 to 45 homers. Like that's not like nobody's doing that. That's not happening. Guys might hit, if a dude's hitting 330, he's not hitting 40 homers on top of it. You know what I mean? That's not happening anymore.
In his third year in the league, he hit 357. 357 with 40 home runs, 120 RBIs, and 10 stolen bases.
Who's doing that?
Nobody's
doing that.
No, no one, because the game
that would win the Triple Crown. That would win the Triple Crown nowadays.
Yeah, that easily would win the Triple Crown, because the game has changed. It's not all about the doubles, triples, and get on base, and then you have the home runs that were the hype. Now it's all home runs.
Pujols probably would have won. Pujols probably would have won like 4 different Triple Crowns. Think about that. Right, like if you look at some of his numbers in his prime and you put it like now in this stretch of like this day and age, he might have won a Triple Crown in like 3 straight years. At one point, it's insane to think about. Like when Miguel Cabrera won it in 2012 or whatever it was, somebody hadn't won it since like 1964 or 1968, something insane like that. But you're like, Cabrera, Pujols had years from like 2002, 3, 4, 5 in that stretch where you're like, you put that in like a stretch nowadays, and like it's like nobody would even come close. He would run away with the Triple Crown. You know what I mean? Like it's insane. The level of just like all around pure dominance he had at the plate for a stretch there. I mean, hell, remember the home run he hit against Brad Lidge that maybe still hasn't landed? That ball hit the train tracks in the playoffs, but I'm sure if the train tracks weren't there, I don't. They might still be going. We should thank Albert Pujols for that, because that was the end of Brad Lidge's Astros career. Pretty much, he was so shell shocked at that point. He was never the same pitcher for them again, and we traded for him like 2 years later, and he ended up being like such a huge part of our World Series team. But if anything, we should thank Albert Pujols for that.
I was just about to say that we should thank him because of that. He came to the Phillies, had that perfect year save wise, and he was one of the integral parts of us winning the World Series that year. And then let's not forget the fact that look at the Cardinals this year. That they got him, they got, just like you said, Molina, Adam Wainwright. They do have a lot of young talent on that team, but
how do you not want them to go win a World Series?
They got
you know what I mean? Like
the first place right now by like 6, I think 4 or 5 games over 6 games over the Brewers. And it's a perfect year for him where it looks like he's gonna hit 700. He's likely gonna make the playoffs. He's gonna get a decent matchup in the first round, and he's gonna get that last run this year with that group that he's in. Between him, Wainwright, and Molina, that they've been around for a long time. Him and Molina, 20 plus years. You got Wainwright, probably 10 to 15 years as a pitcher.
Wainwright's been there since 06. So, yeah, I mean, you're talking about 04, something like that, maybe. I think 04. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, you definitely don't want to root for the Dodgers. You're not rooting for the Mets. The Padres, you're like, you sold yourself out to the baseball gods, so fuck you. We're not rooting for you no more. So, we want the Phillies to go win the World Series, but, okay. You know what I mean? I want the Phillies to go win the World Series too, but I'm not betting money on it. You know what I mean? So, why not? Give me the Cardinals. I'll take the Cardinals to go win the World Series this year. Sure, that'd be fun. Why not?
They got a team that's not. No one on that team's gonna wow you, but they're just overall as a team, they're just legit. They're consistent. They got hot right now at the right time. Yeah,
exactly. Speaking of Triple Crowns, they got Paul Goldschmidt, who could win the Triple Crown.
I have a
Brickman's a degenerate. He knows. He makes tons of bets. He's got a futures bet on St. Louis. That's a good futures bet there.
Yeah, it is. What was the odds on that? I can only imagine.
Yeah, I want to know too. That's not a bad futures bet there, Brickman. Probably got some good odds with that. That's solid.
I wonder what the odds were for him to hit 700 at the beginning of the season. I want to know what the odds were for that. Because that would have been one that would have snuck up on you and been like, damn, I should have done this. Just sprinkle a little bit on this and then watch it happen, because just the perfect thing. I knew that when he went to St. Louis that he was going to at least come back a little bit to somewhat of the Albert Pujols that we know. It's not going to be full strength Albert Pujols, because of course 20 years in the league, he's very old right now, touching 40, and you're not going to have that power like you did, but he has enough power where it looks like he's going to at least touch 20 home runs as a DH, as a guy that now is playing full-time, because he wasn't playing full-time in the first half of the season, but now he's playing full-time. Now he's getting those extra at-bats. He's basically one of their hottest hitters right now on that team, with Arenado there with them, and it's fun
to hit behind those guys, isn't it? I mean, good Lord, when you got Goldschmidt and Arenado and guys like that, it becomes fun.
And then I think that's part of the reason. I feel like that's part of the reason that has helped Goldschmidt out this year has been the fact that Pujols is there. I feel like Pujols is working with Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt kind of had like a 2-year gap where he wasn't playing to that level. He just wasn't the old Goldschmidt of old on Arizona. And Albert Pujols comes in, probably started to work with him. He was like, yo, do this, do that, fix this. And now he's hitting one of the best hitters in baseball. To me, it's not a coincidence that you add Pujols onto the team and then it makes a guy like Goldschmidt better, because Goldschmidt is hitting 335 right now. He's hitting 335 right now, 154 hits. He's 33 home runs.
Yeah, that's the only thing keeping him from the Triple Crown right now is he's trying to chase down Schwarber.
Exactly. And then you got Arenado, who is right behind him in RBIs in home runs. So it's like to me, it's a trickle effect. He said Phillies losing to Arizona is embarrassing. We're getting to that in a second, because it's, of course, is that West Coast trip in Arizona where they always seem to flunder. And I feel like once they go to San Fran, I feel like they'll come back to reality a little bit. But let's transition
they need to get smacked in the mouth a little bit. This is good. I mean, you were flying high. Everything was kind of going too well for a little bit. You know what I mean? And the ebbs and flows of baseball, you get smacked in the mouth a little bit here. Wake you up, kind of make you realize, okay, hey, you still got a lot of season left. You got to take care of business here, and you'll be fine. I mean, last night was tough. I mean, it was an ugly loss, but it's a different team. This isn't last year. Yeah. You're okay. Tonight was going to be one of those things where you've got a really good pitching matchup. It's going to be tough. Gallen's been really, really good. Gallen's been good all year, but he's been especially good over the past month or so. He had a stretch where he was just lights out for a 28 inning stretch. I think he had he allowed 1 earned run in 28 innings or something like that. It was something insane. But I mean, that's tough. I know. Go win the game tomorrow, and You don't get swept in the series. You'll be fine. You go to San Fran. I mean, like you said, like, you know, it's you go on the West Coast trip, and like if you're 500 on a West Coast trip, you're happy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's okay. Like you're okay. Like you're not going to go out on the West Coast and like it doesn't matter who you're playing and think that you're just going to go like fucking sweep teams and shit. Like it just doesn't happen like that. But I know people want things to happen because they think baseball happens on paper.
But we were just talking about the Cardinals. Let's go from one team to another. And what better way to do that than for you to tell everybody about becoming an A2D member?
Well, you know, if you're a degenerate like me or Brinkman or, you know, a lot of other people, you know, here at A2D, we've got our own package for that. And it's only $9.99 a month. And your perks include appearances on shows. You get to be, you know, access to the members only streams. Shout outs, weekly sports picks from the Money Pop podcast, Willie Vegas. Willie Vegas just hit a home run parlay the other day. You know, like plus like 1,800 home run parlay or something crazy. You know, you throw like $10 on it and you're walking away with $180. Yeah, you got all different types of options. You know, for whatever whatever tickles your fancy as a sports bettor. So yeah, you know, $9.99 a month. We're gonna find a better value than that. Pay $10 a month and get access to all of those things. So make sure you sign up to become an A2D member ASAP.
Yeah, but let's talk about the Phillies right now. They're down 5-0, the top of the fourth. You got, of course, the Phillies up the bat.
Well,
right
see,
now.
like that's what can't happen. You can't have Nola. You know, I understand it being a 1-0, 2-0 game. You know, something like that. Where you're like it's good. You know, like Scherzer, Max Scherzer lost a game for the Mets against the Rockies the other day, and you're like, how did the Mets lose to the Rockies? Oh, because it was 1-0, right? Like they didn't score anything. It was the Rockies had their best pitcher going, and you got a 1-0 game. But Scherzer did his part. You can't have Nola. You know, I get it. Like we're going up against Gallen. It'll be hard to score against Gallen. He's really good. That's where you need Nola to sit there and also shine and be lights out on his end. And you can't be 5-0 in the fourth inning. That's just ridiculous. Now you're giving yourself no chance.
And this is the problem here. Once again, it's that one bad inning. He gave up 5 runs in the second inning, and there was a couple of miscues there that caused it. But it's like, once again, it's that one bad inning. We're not seeing multiple innings of 2 runs, 1 run. We're seeing multiple games where it's, okay, a 5-run inning, and it's that swing in the game that's going to affect this team. They were up 7-0 yesterday. You have 2 straight innings of giving up 6 runs, 5 runs, to where they went from up 7-0 to down 11-7. They lose that game 12-7, and now you got today where they're 0-0, and now all of a sudden after the second inning, they're down 5-0. You can't be giving up those long stretches of runs in an inning and expect to be able to come back from that in important games. And not just important games. This is a game that you should be winning. Just imagine when this happens in an important game. Okay, I thought those guys were going to collide, but they get out. I think, was it Alec Boehm, I think, was up? Or was that Reese? One of the two. So there's 2 outs in the top of the fourth, and the Phillies are still up. But you got to win these games, especially when you're a battering for a wild card spot. You have a nice 1.5 game lead. You have a nice 3-game lead on the Brewers, who are right outside. You want to keep that. You want to be able to add to that, so there's a little bit of cushion, so you can kind of be a little bit wiggle room with your lineup, with the starting rotation. Maybe you're pitching. Maybe you give somebody an extra rest, knowing that you need somebody good for a playoff game coming in. You don't want to come in there and have to worry until the last game because of games like this that you could have won and should have won, and then you gave them up because of bad mistakes. And then you got Robson. Great start by Nola after a loss to a shit team.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's like I think maybe we're a little bit worried about the D-backs because of what happened when we got swept late last year, and it kind of derailed everything. But we're in a different spot. Like we were trying to chase down a playoff spot last year at that time, as opposed to being in a playoff spot this year. I think we're just like we're kind of like, oh no, like the D-backs, look, here we go again. But it's not about winning it as much, like winning this game as much as after a game like yesterday where the bullpen really, took a blow because of just how many arms you were using. With the big innings that were going on, it's kind of one of those things where you're like, even if you lost this game, you really needed Nola to go 7 or 8 innings for you and really have a start where it gave the bullpen a breather. And I mean, maybe that still happens, but giving up a 5 spot in the second inning doesn't help.
And between the 2 series before this, we had that help. We had starts from our starters where they're all going 7-8 runs, and I'm 7-8 innings. And they're pitching lights out. I think Noah had a great one. Of course, I think Weir had a good one. He even had a good one from Gibson. And they're barely using a lot of the bullpen. They're using one setup man and one guy to finish the game, which was a non-save situation. And then you even had the game where you had the complete game shutout where you even have to touch the bullpen. And that's what you want. And then last week I was going through the starters before they went on that good 5-1 streak against the Reds and the Pirates, what they should have. And you would notice that they were winning when they got a great start out of the pitcher, and then they were losing when they got a bad start out of that pitcher. They weren't able to kind of recover from his game, and it's all going to come down to the pitching because all hitting is hot and cold. They're either going to play great or they're not going to play good at all. There's no consistency, I feel like, with the hitting on this team, even with Harper there. There's no consistency because you only have 1 or 2 guys that hit close to 300. Everybody else hits between 230 and 260. And then you got Bohm who hits 297, and then you got Harper who hits 320. So you gotta expect that from the team. They can hit a lot of home runs. They can drive in a lot of runs, but it's all within like a hot streak. And then they go on a cold streak, and then that's when they need the pitching, which it has been great all year, to kind of make up for it. Like you can have games where the hitting will make up for maybe a bad start from the pitcher, and then vice versa. But you're not getting that at all. We got Peter Evans coming in. Yo, fam, what's going on? How's your day going? But right now, even though he gave up 5 runs, hopefully he can get to at least the 6th inning and help us out a little bit, especially after yesterday. I'm looking right now. He's at 58 pitches, so he can still get the 6-7 innings if he wants to, if he can get back on track and at least save us from having to go deep into the bullpen again like we did yesterday. If he can get that far and then maybe you have a guy go 1 inning, maybe 2 innings, and then you've got somebody to close the game out just in the 9th inning. If he can go in here and just use 3 guys, I'd say that'd be okay, even if we don't win, just so you don't have to put a lot of tax on that bullpen. You want to have
at this point. If you can go 7, if you're down 5-0 after 7, you're kind of in a position where you're like, okay, you're no longer. I mean, obviously, it's you're not trying to lose the game, but it's like the chances of you winning the game at that point, become a lot less. It's like it's not like I don't need to go throw my 2 best arms in like it's a 1-1 game or something. 1-1 game, you're trying to keep yourself in a spot to go win it in the 8th inning, 9th inning, right? 5-0, you're just like, okay, at this point, you just let's use as little, as few arms as possible, sort of thing, right? So, I mean, if you can get me through 7, I can find a couple guys that's like even why is this guy? Because it's 5-0 and it's garbage time. Right? You always got a garbage time guy in your bullpen who just pitches in garbage time games where it's like, okay, you got a 5-run lead or you're down by 5 runs, whatever. And it's not a high stress situation, and it's just okay. Like even if this guy stinks, it's a good situation to put him in the game. 58 pitches, okay. I mean, good, like great. So you take one on the chin for the team, and you go 7 or 8 innings, and even if you give up 5 runs, you lose the game. In some ways, you being able to go that deep in the game still helps the team because you're still setting up your bullpen here for the next series in a way where you feel like, okay, my bullpen's at 100%, as opposed to, feeling like they, you blew a lot of shots that they had left, a lot of shots that were in their arms. You kind of blew all those in a series where you're like, that probably shouldn't have happened, and then you're going to, San Francisco, a place where you're probably going to need those arms. San Francisco's a much better team at home than they are on the road, sort of thing. And you think, okay, like they're good enough where you'll probably be playing some close games there. You want to make sure your bullpen's 100%.
And what's crazy is even though he's given up 5 runs, he's at the same pitch count at Zach Gallen, and he's given up 5 runs, and he's pitching right now in the 4th inning. So if you could put yourself in a chance where maybe you get you get these 2 outs in the 4th inning, you get it to the 5th. Maybe you get 2 runs in the 5th. Maybe you get 2 more runs. And maybe you just chip away at that lead. And
if you can get a couple off Gallen before you get to the D-backs bullpen, you got a chance. The D-backs have a bad bullpen. Their bullpen is not good. I mean, so if you can get a couple off Gallen before you get to the bullpen, you're in an okay spot. But Gallen's a guy also will go 120 pitches.
He definitely could. And I feel like you got tomorrow where you got Falter going up against Henry. So he's been a guy that's been okay for us the past 2 starts. I've been surprised. I'm not expecting too much from him. I feel like he's just in there to plug and pray for right now since Wheeler is on the DL. And he did a solid start and a win last start. And then I think he got a solid win before that. So if we can get at least 5-6 innings out of him tomorrow, get the win, and then you have that extra day off after that on I believe on Thursday, and then you go in to San Fran on Friday, and then you at least are going to have a situation where you might have I believe Gibson, Suarez, and then Noah again.
You want to try to set up everything for that series. I mean, I think the thing about if you lose tonight, okay, fine. That means you just don't get swept tomorrow. You got to go win the game tomorrow, and it's okay. You're fine. Like something. Again, you're going to go to the West Coast. How could you lose a series to the Diamondbacks? Because that's baseball. The fucking Dodgers got swept by the Pirates earlier this year in LA. It's things happen.
Well, not just that, but tonight the Brewers lost to the Pirates.
Which again, that helps, right? And that whole situation helps.
And then like you said, the Reds beat the Cardinals. You got the Padres and Giants playing each other. Like, I don't expect this to keep on happening because the Phillies have had the luck to where they've gone on like this, not a losing drought, but like a drought where they don't play well. They might win 1 out of 3 or 2 or something like that. But then the Padres and the Brewers lose as well, so we don't lose any ground on what we had on that lead. It's been at that 1.5 and then 3 game back thing this whole time. We did get it up to 2 and 4, but we've had the luck to where the Brewers just keep losing. We can't expect that now. We still got to play and win, but we've been lucky with that, and we got to start taking advantage of that because we can't just keep losing when they lose. We got to win when they lose and even win when they win. We got to start doing that so we can add to that and then be ready for the playoff, for the wild card round if we make it. Because if we don't pick this up, we could lose that lead. And that 3 games, we've seen it easily where 3 games is like going into September is like nothing. And,
but do you see what I mean with the overreaction here, Daniel? You see how we're immediately talking about after just because of an ugly loss yesterday, just because we blow a 7-0 lead, all of a sudden we're talking about, we've been one of the hottest teams in baseball over the past month. Hell, probably longer than that. But outside of the Dodgers, there hasn't been a hotter team in baseball than us. And then you just have that something fluky happen last night, and part of what made that so painful last night is you knew you had to come into a game today against a guy that's a really tough pitcher, having a great year. And it's one of those things where you're like, it's going to be tough now to go beat that guy. You were kind of hoping, okay, if this, this might be the one game in the series that's tough to win sort of thing. But still, this is all silly to me. Like, I feel like, are we really over here talking about because we might lose 2 games in a row to the Diamondbacks, and all of a sudden we went from a team that's one of the hottest teams in baseball that can make some noise in the playoffs. If we don't pick it up, we might lose our lead. The Padres haven't been able. They traded for Juan Soto, and all of a sudden they stink. Okay, if you're the Padres, you're really scared because you're not playing good baseball at all at an important time of the year. And if you're the Brewers, the same thing. You're just kind of scuffling and treading water. At least we've been hot. At least we've been one of the better teams in baseball over the past couple months.
Well, as you're saying that, Nola just gave up a 3-run home run. So now it's 8-0. So now it's 8-0 Diamondbacks. So he's probably only going to go 4 or 5 innings. So that's going to tax on the bullpen even more.
So now we're going to have a September collapse. It's going to be like 1964 all over again. I wonder if there's anybody in the chat room old enough to remember 1964. I doubt it. But if there is, you get the reference.
Yeah.
Great.
I don't think they're going to.
Just the beginning of it, Daniel. Let's speak it into existence then.
I don't think they're going to collapse.
Because we lost 2 because we're going to lose back-to-back games to the D-backs in ugly fashions. At this point, sound the alarms. We should all start panicking because, man.
But
woo!
No, I don't think they're going to do it. I just get pissed off at the fact that they lose these games that they should win. But then it's
a 162-game schedule. It is what it is. I mean, things happen.
But it's always been a thing with them where they'll beat a top-tier team, but then lose to a team that they shouldn't. And I'm like, come on. You got to do better than this. But,
the Dodgers just lost 2 or 3 to the Marlins. Should their fans be worried?
No, but they also have an 8-game lead where they're first place and they're going to get No, I totally agree with you, but I always get pissed off. This is exactly what the team's done the past couple of years, but at least they're playing better than they were last year. At least they're in the wild card this year than last year, where they were 2 games back, they were hot, and then they just didn't do enough because they couldn't win these games, and the bullpen was bad. Now the bullpen's at least good, and now we can say that. But now this year the hitting isn't as good as last year. I feel like we're hitting more home runs, but we don't have enough guys hitting, getting on base. We got Mark chiming in. I would say I felt good about Noah after the complete game, but after another poor performance tonight, are we worried about another late season decline for him? I'm not going to be too worried unless he does it again like this. I got to see his next start because he's been hot the past 2 months. I feel like he's had 1 bad game, I feel like, in that stretch. But then you have this game. So now I got to see how he does. I'm not going to overreact to this with him because you got even the best of guys will have a game like a clunker like this. And he's been a guy that
fired up.
Yeah. He said you got Ralphie saying enjoy Arby's.
Who the fuck's eating Arby's?
I don't know. I have no idea. But I
don't know what the fuck that was.
But I feel like at the end of the day, I feel like the Phillies are going to get that 2 spot in the wild card. I think they're going to stay ahead of both the Padres and then the Brewers. That's kind of funny. I laugh if the Brewers can catch the Padres and overtake them because that'd be funny for the Padres to do all this and miss it. And then they'll set up.
If I'm the team, if I'm worried, I'm the Padres. That'd be the team that I'd be like, I'm not comfortable right now where I'm at because they're not playing good baseball. You play in a tough division, and it doesn't really seem like who they play right now. They just seem to struggle. So I mean, that's who you know. I don't know. Let those 2 teams you 2 can't figure out who wants to actually go win the 3rd wild card spot. Yeah. It's I don't. People are going to sit here and tell me I should be more concerned or something. This came back to why I feel like why I wanted nothing to do with there being a poll question surrounding it because I don't there's not for me there's not for us for me that there's nothing to talk about here. This is a non-story. Great, we're playing a series against the Diamondbacks, who, by the way, in case people didn't notice, had their top prospect just debut last night, that Carroll kid, and he can absolutely fly. Can really run, great athlete, and especially when you're a bad team, sometimes things like that provide energy. All of a sudden, your top prospect comes up. Now, all of a sudden, there's a little bit more energy in the clubhouse. You got a little bit more swagger. And you feed off this young kid who's coming up here with, all this excitement and youthful energy and swagger to them, and you feed off of it. And teams, sometimes, get a little hot because of it, and they just, it kind of, that's just baseball. You see it every single year. It just, I don't know if it motivates them, but they definitely seem to benefit from the fact that that this young prospect comes up, and whatever it is about that, whether it's the extra attention, whether it's just the overall fact of like, oh, okay, look at this kid, he can really play. If we add, you give this, next year, let's be excited because this kid's gonna be with us full time, and hey, like we, it's just something. There's always seems to be something about it where like the veterans on the group or everybody else in the clubhouse, when they see the young player, the young top prospect come up, and not only does he come up, but there's substance to him. Like it's exciting to watch him. Teams will play better baseball, and I don't know that the Diamondbacks are in that situation. So you're walking into a situation where their top prospect is making his debut, and he was part of that, that whole rally last night, that the one hopper to Segura, and it kind of started, it kind of like began, the whole rally that got the Diamondbacks back in that game. But again, things like that, like I don't know, I maybe other people don't look at it the same way I do, but like I see things like that and go like, these are reasons why I'm not concerned. Like, I like, and it's just a feel thing. Last year when we were in September and we got swept by the D-backs, I was like, it's over. Like, it's over. Like, this can't happen when you're in the middle of trying to chase down a playoff spot. This is over. It's over now. You killed it. Every chance you had, you killed it. It's a completely opposite feeling for me now. Like, it's just like, okay, like this is funny. Actually, I think it's funny. I find it humorous. See, I find it humorous because we got little like people. Who are you? Who the hell are you? Random Facebook user without a profile picture says, we really just watch Arizona get 21 straight runs against this team. What the literal hell am I watching here? Nola's still in getting lit up for no reason. Yeah, because you don't have a bullpen after last night. So let him get lit up. That's his own fucking fault. Don't get lit the fuck up then. Now you're going to get in. Now you're going to be in there. You got to take one on the chin. That's what happens sometimes when you're the ace of the staff. And you don't have Wheeler to pitch tomorrow, which you usually would, hoping, okay, he can shut something down. You can't count on Bailey Falter might go 5 innings for you, maybe 6 if he's really good, but it's not like he's going to go pitch a shutout. So now you're in a position where it just is what it is. And as long as he's got bullets left until he's out of bullets, he's going to be in there. That's the way that's going to work. He can throw 110 pitches and give up 12 runs. He'll be in there until he has no more bullets.
We got a couple more coming in. Also, to be fair, the Phillies are 0-6, looking like 0-7 in the last few games. And Arizona don't think this is a big deal, just another team.
It could be something to that. It's a little weird, right?
Kyle, Facebook knows I want to be anonymous as a Philly fan over here, probably in Facebook jail for cursing too much last game.
Are you Kyle Mager? Kyle? But you block me on Facebook, and then you want to show up in my chat room?
One thing I want to bring up about the Phillies before we move on to the NFL, I'm going to eat crow for this one just because he's been proving us wrong all year, but I have to bring up JT Realmuto and how he's been killing it the past couple of months. We came into the season like, he's playing horrible. He's not living up to this contract. Maybe we need to trade him.
Because we want him to be Mike Piazza.
Yeah.
Everybody wants him to be Mike Piazza.
But he's the last couple months, he's been playing like Mike Piazza. He's coming out there. He's hitting for power. He's driving runs in. And not only that, but this guy has 16 stolen bases. This guy's doing it on the base running too. And he's a catcher.
And defensively, he's still, you're like, how can you complain about what he's done defensively? Throwing guys out. The play the other night on the foul tip, he reached up and caught the ball that bounced off his glove, and he still reached out and caught it back over.
I turned MLB the TV on the other day. I haven't watched it in a while. I've just been busy. I turned it on, and all things they were doing, they were talking about JT Realmuto and how he's changed his game the past year, and how that's kind of been one of the points that what has changed this Philly team, and he's doing it on all levels, hitting, defense, and base stealing. He's doing it all 3 levels. And he's been one of the big reasons why we didn't really miss Harper as much in the lineup, was because Realmuto picked up, and because he picked up, it kind of got everybody else to pick their game up during that time. And I felt like, this is the guy that we wanted. It's been a couple of years of him playing well, but not playing to the level that we wanted. And now he's playing to the level that we wanted. And now we're in that playoff positioning because of it. And it comes back to maybe it was a good thing that Harper got hurt, like we said weeks ago, because now everybody else is stepping their game up because he missed so much time. And now he's come back, and now he can put it all together down this stretch. And even though, just like you said, even though it might be a thing where we play Arizona bad, it might just be in Arizona where we just suck against them there. But afterwards, we can pick things up, and then we can go on a run and possibly gain some ground on even the Braves if we could.
Sometimes places have bad mojo, and it's like you go on a road trip somewhere and you get on the plane, you're like, oh no, not this place again. There you go, Kyle. It's cool, Kyle. I'm just messing with you, dude. I'm a ball buster. It's all good. I appreciate you hanging in. Throw punches back, dude. Bust my balls back. It's all good. Hello, Fly Honeys. Is the couch for sale? This couch was given to me by somebody, by one of my friends, because I'm trying to think who gave me this couch. My other family. Yeah, we got it from the other family after they were moving out. And they got a new couch, and they're like, we got to get you with the couch. I was like, yeah, I'll take the couch. It's a free couch. Who doesn't want a free couch? So no, it's not for sale. It was a free couch. Well, maybe it is then. How much you offer it? I don't know. I got it for free. If you offer enough, give me a couple grand. Anything's for sale, but then I wouldn't have a couch no more. So I'd have to balance it. You'd have to decide, is it worth it?
Speaking of is it worth it? We're going to transition from the Phillies now to the NFL, and what better way to do so than for you to tell everybody about Manscaped?
Why don't you tell people about Manscaped?
I'd like to hear from you. I think you do it a lot better, and you're the voice of reason around here, since apparently I'm being too pessimistic about the Phillies right now.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. If you're like Daniel and you're actually into Manscaped, because I'm not, as you could tell, I'm not much of a shaver of any kind, but you can get 20% off plus the free shipping with the code A2D at manscaped.com. And that's 20% off plus free shipping with the code A2D at manscaped.com. It's time to throw out your old hygiene habits and upgrade your life. Maybe I should take their advice. Manscaped, they seem to be doing pretty well for themselves. And maybe I should throw out my old hygiene habits and upgrade my life in the process. With a baby on the way, you can never. It's never a bad idea, right, Daniel?
No, it's never a bad idea. But
I'll say the one thing about JT before we officially move on to the Eagles is again, just another thing that doesn't concern me. No, he hadn't been he was an all-star last year. I feel like he's lived up to every bit of the contract. I don't have unrealistic expectations. I didn't expect the guy to come in and hit 300 and hit me 40 homers. But if you've got a catcher that's going to hit, you're close to, hit you 25 homers every, close to 25 homers every year. And then on top of it, he's a guy that's arguably the best defensive catcher in baseball. I don't see any reason to bitch about your catcher at that point. You've got a pretty damn good one, and he's worth every penny you pay him. So.
No, I agree. But let's talk about football right now. We're done the preseason now. We got the regular season that's going to be starting, I believe, next Thursday, I believe, is the first game. What's your expectations for this year? And then what did you see anything in the preseason at all that kind of made you happy or not happy? And we did have a nice trade today that's going to happen. That happened for the Eagles.
Oh yes, yeah.
Where they traded with the Saints. They basically gave up nothing to bring in Gardner Johnson, a secondary player that's going to do wonders for this team. It gives them a lot of help where they can play more man coverage and kind of change the secondary up, which is only going to be better for the front seven as a whole. But what are your takes?
I'm watching Ridiculousness, and this dude just wiped out on a skateboard, and it got my attention. Did you see my head snap towards the TV and my mouth? Oh shit! Yeah, that was crazy. He like busted his nuts on the bottom of the rail. Oh, it was awesome. It's pretty gnarly. I did not watch a minute of preseason football. Like I really it's preseason football is like the most, unless there's like some sort of like. I was intrigued. I watched some of the Steelers games and some of the Steelers stuff because they've got the intriguing battle at quarterback with Trubisky and the rookie Kenny Pickett, who I'm obviously a big fan of. So, it was one of those things that where like a situation like that, I watched a little bit of it and was intrigued by it, but I cannot stand watching most preseason football because it's just the most irrelevant nonsense. And like the Eagles situation, even more so than ever this year, it was just like, what are we watching for? Because I have to watch football. I've got that much of a football fix. So I didn't know. I mean, I didn't. There was nothing that I watched preseason wise that would sit there and tell me anything. I didn't really feel like there was anything I was going to gain for it, so I wasn't really too worried about it. But I feel like I know what this team is. I feel like no matter what happened in the preseason, as long as nobody got seriously injured, there was nothing that was going to change any of that. And I still feel the same way.
I think the only two guys that really got injured that missed time were Kelsey, which he wasn't injured. He just wanted to get surgery.
He shouldn't have been playing in the preseason anyway. You're just like, like, why are you even playing? Like,
So he went and he was like, I'm just going to use this time to get surgery. He'll be back week 1. But I think the big thing there, it gave a lot of time for Kim Jurgens to play and then play at center.
The whole point.
And then he did a great job in the preseason for the little bit that he played, because I think he only played the first game. And then Dickerson missed time, but it wasn't that bad, and he wasn't going to play that much anyway, just like we said, because all the starters didn't play. But I like what I saw from Nakobe Dean. I like what I saw from, of course, our first-round pick, of course. We want to see how he played Jordan Davis. I liked what I saw from the young guys. That's what I was looking for. I was looking for that, and I was looking for the little bit that we saw from A.J. Brown. Saw that. One big thing I liked from him, to go back to I did watch the Jets game, was Goddard caught a touchdown on the first drive, and it was set up because A.J. Brown was right in front of him, got in front of him, and made a block at the end zone that allowed Goddard to jump into the end zone for the touchdown. That's what I want to see out of a guy. Not just that is he catching the ball and making plays, but is he also blocking, helping the team out in other ways. And that's something that A.J. Brown does. And that's why we paid him that much, because he does it all. He might not be a top 5 wide receiver, but he's definitely up there in the top 10, top 15. And he's going to make things easier for Jalen Hurts, even with how we criticize Jalen Hurts. But with a guy like that, and then Devontae Smith on the opposite side, and then Goddard on the middle, we should expect definitely a step up from Jalen Hurts, unless Jalen Hurts does bad. That would be the only reason I feel like these guys won't produce, is if Jalen Hurts doesn't do what he should be doing.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't want Jalen throwing the ball 40 times a game. I don't care how many weapons I have. I think you're gonna build your team through trying to run the ball. And really, having your big plays will be there for you to take advantage of and try to go make your big plays when they're there. Yeah. But you're not trying to run some sort of high-powered offense. No. You've got arguably the best front 7 in football, and you're probably going to have a top 5 defense. Everything goes according to the way. I'm with it. Go ahead, let him pitch it. I'm with it. Sounds good. Let him pitch. He can pitch. Let's let that happen.
I'd be okay if Hurts does 22 to 27 throws a game. That'd be perfect.
Throw the ball 25 to 30 times a game, something like that, whatever. But for me, this like you kind of know like everything's been set up for a while with this team now. Like there wasn't like you knew what like we've been building this identity now since last year, and you finally have it set up every way that you want it. And it's a lot of talent on this team on both sides. You go execute and take care of business, you win 10 games by accident. You know what I'm saying? What's funny for me is, I look at a team like Dallas and got all types of penalty issues. They're poorly coached, obviously, because McCarthy's there. And that's it seems like the longer McCarthy's with anybody, that same thing happened in Green Bay, right? The longer he was there, like the worse they got. And the penalty issues, that's a complete reflection on what you are as a head coach. And, that situation is going to get ugly. You can already tell. Jerry Jones to come out, like, it's just one of those things. You got to love it as an Eagles fan because we're going to be good. And then anytime you're good and Dallas, like, just implodes, oh, it's even better. You're just like, oh, this is so fucking phenomenal. To be good and then watch them implode is just like, it's like the cherry on top. And you could just see this coming. Fucking Kellen Moore turned down the Boise State head coaching job for a reason, not just so he could stay offensive coordinator with the Dallas Cowboys forever and ever. Obviously, there's some substance there. There's not just smoke and mirrors. He thinks that there's, a good chance he's going to be offered the head coaching job of the Dallas Cowboys sooner rather than later. And you've got two dudes on that coaching staff that, Kellen Moore and then the other dude on the defensive side that both ended up having head coaching interviews in the NFL this year, this offseason. Both, whether they turned down head coaching jobs or went offered, whatever. The bottom line is there's sexy names in the head coaching circle, right? And then Jerry Jones comes out and says, it's like Super Bowl or bust sort of thing. We've got Super Bowl expectations. And, if Mike, man, this is pretty much like, this isn't like just me making it up. Like it's not verbatim, but it's being paraphrased. This was like on a live radio interview where he says, there's Super Bowl expectations. And if, Mike McCarthy can't get the job done, I've got two other guys on this coaching staff who can, sort of thing. Right. So, how do you feel if you're Mike McCarthy now? You're like, oh, man, like if it wasn't already enough pressure on me to go out and have a really good year as the head coach here, it's kind of like already been insinuated that, like, I've got two people here that can, like, replace you like that. You know what I mean? Like, if they start, like, 1-5 or something like that, he's fired by week 6. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's that situation gets ugly in a hurry. You can already see it coming because this is what Dallas does. We've seen this play out enough times in Jerry Jones' time there as the owner, where you can already see it coming. So I'm going to enjoy that. I think more than anything else that's going to happen early on in the NFL season is just watching Dallas absolutely implode.
Well, let's take a look at the 53-man roster right now. I'm going to bring it up in a second. Whoop.
Oh, that's fun. That's what we need is to show people a 53-man roster.
And I already know what you're looking at right now.
You can't even read that. What the hell is that? Daniel, I've got, like, my eyes are so bad. Do you see me, like, leaning in here? Like, yeah, there you go. See that exactly. You got to blow it up a little bit. There you go. For us people that are older and have bad vision, not all of us are young whippersnappers like you.
I already know the first thing that you're looking at that's just giving you bad thoughts right now. And it's the guy we talked about last week. Boston Scott. Yeah, it's you didn't trade for Kareem Hunt. I mean, at this point, Boston Scott's going to be on the team because at that point, sure. That's the way that goes. I'm mad that he made the roster. I hope at least Brooks made the practice squad. They haven't announced the practice squad guys yet. So I'm hoping he at least make that. Of course, Hurts, Minshew are going to make it. Sanders, Gainwell, and then I guess Scott. You look at the wide receivers, you had Brown, Smith, Watkins. Pascal had a really good preseason, apparently. You had Rager, who you tried to trade, but you couldn't trade him, so he makes it just because of that. And Devin Allen.
Yeah, it was going to be a packet, I think, to release him. That's the only reason they kept him.
I think they wanted
Devin Allen. John Hightower. We traded John Hightower to the Seahawks or something, didn't we?
No, we traded what's his name?
Taking Whiteside to the Seahawks. Yeah. But who'd we trade John Hightower to?
We released him. We just cut him.
That's what it was. Yeah, we cut him.
Yeah, we cut him. Greg Ward's on IR, so he's not counting for a spot on the team right now.
That's fun.
So we kind of in a way had
Tell
to
you what, the
keep
backup
Prager.
tight end position looks stout. Dallas Goedert gets hurt. We're fucked there, aren't we? Holy shit.
Well, from what I've seen, Jack Stoll has been like the best blocking tight end on the team. But yeah, catching wise, we shouldn't expect too much from him. But he's been like above average blocker on the team. He's been a guy that for where we drafted him, he was great value there. Tyree Jackson's still hurt. I don't know why he's still on the team because he's barely played for us. You tried to trade Dilliard, but it didn't happen. So I like the depth on the line because Dickerson's going to be playing week 1. Kelsey's going to be playing. You got your starting 5 back on that, but then you got a lot of depth. You got Opeta, Dilliard, Juergens, Driscoll, Sills, and Toth. I feel like this has been.
If you look at you went up front still in the NFL. It's really it more so now. It's about protecting your quarterback and being able to do that more than it was 30, 40 years ago, where it's about, you went up front, and it's in the trenches sort of thing because you're running the ball and those types of things. But it's still, if you look at up front offensively and defensively, we've got to have the best, you've got some teams like the Rams have, they've got a great front seven, right? They've got you're like, wow, what a front seven that is. But their offensive line, you're like, I'll take my offensive line over yours every single day of the week, So you look up front on both sides of the football, and we're probably the best team in football when you just look at it on both sides up front, offensive line, defensive line, and we've got depth on both sides. It's you're in a good spot there. It's scary, just how much talent we have. Up front on both sides. And our linebacking core is greatly improved from where it was at. People bitch about the linebacking core, but the linebacking core is greatly improved.
We don't have a top-tier linebacker, but I think at the linebacking core as a whole is one of the best that we've had in a while.
We don't have Alex Singleton play. Alex Singleton's not playing every snap, calling all of our defensive plays. That you're like, oh, look at that! This is an actual TJ Edwards is, he's not Ray Lewis, right? But you're like, TJ Edwards is a guy. You're a solid linebacker, right? Linebacker's one of those positions. You don't need Brian Urlachers anymore. You just need a bunch of solid players at that position, and we're solid at the linebacker position. All of a sudden,
he's gonna fill that starting job in the middle until Nakobe Dean is ready to take it because he's a rookie. You don't need him to come in. Nakobe Dean's going to probably still play a lot.
And you're going to be able to rotate bodies there. You got White that's going to start outside there, but Davion Taylor is going to get a ton of playing time, obviously. Nakobe Dean's going to get a ton of playing time. So,
you can rotate in and out.
You don't feel weak there. Yeah, you could actually rotate at the linebacker position. Something that you're like you were playing Alex Singleton just because you had no choice. Now you feel like you can actually rotate at that position, and you've got some depth even there, which was a position of weakness a couple years ago. So, and listen, you're solid. We know what the elephant in the room is. If Jalen Hurts turns into, Steve McNair, you might go win 14 games. But I think you're in a position, just let Jalen Hurts be what he is. If he's just what he is, you're winning enough football games where you're probably winning the division, but you're a playoff team at the very least. Dallas is going to, implode. The Giants are going to stink. And Washington has a really favorable schedule. And I hate that people are going to, I know people are going to hate me for saying this. And maybe part of it's just the fact that I like to stir the pot. And you know how much I like to stir the pot. But, if you're looking for a sexy, futures bet, you might want to, I'll put some money on Washington to go win the NFC East. Washington's got Jacksonville and the Lions the first 2 weeks. If they're not 2-0 by the time they play us week 3, Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? Jackson, that's fun though. Jacksonville and Washington, week 1. Carson Wentz against Dougie P. I'm all for it. And I want to, it's down. I'm down here in Florida. Hopefully that game's on TV because it's Jacksonville. I want to see. You got to think. Don't tell me there's not some animosity there. Don't tell me Carson Wentz doesn't want to stick it to Doug Peterson. Don't tell me he's not fuck that guy. What an asshole. Now Carson Wentz is kind of becoming, the longer this goes on, the more Carson Wentz comes across as a very douchey person. He feels like he can, like I was talking about you with this the other night, right? And I was like, it's not that Carson's not talented. He had a good, he's going to put up good numbers as a quarterback. I think where Carson's issue is some guys are motivated by winning and some guys are motivated by other things. And Carson's motivated by other things. It's not winning that motivates Carson Wentz. He enjoys the fact that he, can go hunting and fishing and live that lifestyle. He's got his, enough money to live his life comfortably in every way that he wants. He's the whole Christian thing and all that. That's very close to him, and he does, all of that stuff. Good. Yeah, that's what motivates him. He likes all that. He seems like a guy that if he had to retire tomorrow and walk away from football, he'd be perfectly fine with that. He's content with that. Whereas there's some guys that wouldn't be able to live without the idea of I don't know what I just don't know what to do in my life. This is what I do, and I wouldn't know how to replace it in my life if I didn't have it, sort of thing. And Carson's not that guy. And I'm kind of as a guy that's a fiery competitor and as somebody that always for me it was I was kind of always that reckless abandonment. I'm going to run through a brick wall if I have to win a game, sort of thing. I had my competitive fire was always burning. For me, those you're going to be held back. You're never going to be able to ever reach the mountaintop in professional sports or maybe in sports in general if you're a guy that isn't motivated by the idea of being the best you can be and by winning. Winning has to motivate you. You have to hate losing to such a level where it pisses you off, to such a point that, I just can't, I love winning, but I hate losing that much more. The reason I love winning so much is because I can't stand to lose. Losing pisses me off. Losing makes me mad. Losing makes me want to punch something. And that's what losing should do. Losing sucks. And you should be motivated by the fact that losing sucks so much that I'd rather win because winning feels a hell of a lot better than losing. And I think we learned at the tail end of his time here in Philly. Oh, okay. Now I see. This is just kind of that. That's what's missing here. That's why Carson. That's the missing piece with Carson. Yeah. It's that's why we're so frustrated. It's not that he's not talented. It's not that he's not a good enough quarterback to be the the MVP guy that he was again in 2017. The fire's not there anymore. And I think the fire was there at one point. I think we saw a guy that played with that fire in 2017. And, maybe it's the knee injury, maybe it's the combination of the knee injury and then the back injury the year after, and then the concussion in the playoff game and all these things kind of add up. I don't know. I'm not Carson Wentz. I'm not in his head. But it definitely seems as if the guy that was, the Carson Wentz that existed pre-injury is not the Carson Wentz that exists now. Not from a physical perspective as far as his ability to play the quarterback position at a high level, but from the competitive fire perspective. I think you saw a guy that had a lot of Brett Favre in him before the injury, and that's no longer there.
Now, speaking of lighting a fire, a guy that I'm hoping that will have that with the revamped D-line is Fletcher Cox. You got a guy here who's, I believe he's on 1 year, $13 million. And I think they kind of they gave him a little bonus, so they kind of were able to knock it down a little bit. You got a defensive tackle position where you got Cox and Hargrave who are going to start. But now you have a lot of depth, I feel. You got Milton Williams, who did really good last year. Now he's coming to year 2. You got your first-round pick, Jordan Davis, who's going to be coming in there. And then you got Marlon Tuipulotu. So you got 5 guys that you can rotate in and out. Fletcher Cox isn't going to have to play as much, but maybe knowing, seeing how you've jolted this team with a lot of youth, maybe it lights a fire in him to want to help these guys, which he has been. He's talked about how he's excited to see how Jordan Davis has been doing in a training camp. He can come in there. He's the elder statesman now, and he can kind of just be that leader on that group. And he can rotate in and out now instead of having to play a lot of snaps.
Bring up the schedule. See, this would be more fun. Like, we don't need to look at a fucking depth chart. I mean, like this, we all know. We all know who all these people are.
Well, I'm going to say that for next week, so we have something to do next week.
Well, still, go ahead and bring up the schedule. I mean, at this point, again, like this is like I don't, we're talking about something here that it's like we all like everybody already like we already know who like again like none of these things like this was we knew all this 3 months ago. You know what I mean? Like for the most part, outside of the C.J. Gardner-Johnson trade now, but like we knew whose roles were going to be what sort of thing.
No, but I think but the big thing with me to take away from the training camp is the play of the young guys. That's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see.
It's speaking of competitive fire, they have that.
Yeah,
these guys seem like they're motivated by winning.
Yeah. And what did we do? What was the big thing that we actually did? We drafted from great schools, Alabama and Georgia, the past 2 years, and you see what's happening with that. And then we traded for A.J. Brown. We took a first rounder and traded for him and gave him an extension because he's still young. I believe he's 24, 25, but he has already showcased what he can do. Yeah, so we've gotten a guy that's proven. We've gotten stars from big schools now. We're not going and trying to, okay, let me see what this guy can do because of potential. We got guys that we know can play. Plug him in there. We got lucky with Dean where injury issues kind of made him drop to the third round. He showcased himself. We did Howie did what we needed to do, and he added to this roster. And now we got a lot of youth on defense. We even got youth on the offensive line now too. But it's going to be a thing that helps this team out with financially and with play.
Coming from schools like Alabama and Georgia schools, I think more than anything, it's not necessarily like for me, like, oh yeah, like, well, they could play. Yeah, we know that because, you're talking about like elite SEC programs, yes. Like the NFL pipelines. But more than that, it's a culture thing. You're coming from a program like Alabama where winning is kind of like bred into you. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a culture. And once that's bred into you, it's there. Like you just, winning becomes a part of your culture and you just kind of like that. It becomes your focus. Like everything gets built around the idea of winning. It's a mindset. So like that's contagious. You bring enough of those guys into, like you've got you've got a lot of those guys now in one locker room who kind of all are bred in this winning culture. And it creates something where all of those guys now understand what that culture is, how to win, how you approach it, all these things that go into how you do that. It's not just about, oh, well, of course we all want to win games. Well, sure, everybody wants to win, but how do you do that? Well, they understand that because they grew up and were groomed in a culture, that was like the entire design was, it prepared you, for the next level. So you're in a good spot with all that. Sure. I love the fact that I've got guys that have been groomed to understand that, winning, like you play to win, like, and this is how you win. And it's all a mindset and it's preparation. There's all these things that go into it. It's not just stepping on the field because you're the best athlete on the field. You're going to go out there and that's what's going to win you games. There's more that goes into it than that. Yeah. And great. Like, I think that's part of, what was lacking, in years past too. But it all has to come together. I don't necessarily think this is the year. Like people want to talk Super Bowl. I think that's premature, but I think you're trying to set up a process where it's a step-by-step thing. And, you take another step forward this year and, you're hopefully in a position next year where now you're like, okay, now it's like Super Bowl or bust, right? Like now you're ready. Like you want to go make that run and you look at it like that. And you just hope everything goes according to plan because it's all kind of set up perfectly. The game plan, I mean, on paper, I don't think I've ever seen something set up better where you look at it and go like, man, this is all set up beautifully. If you just go execute it the way you're supposed to. I don't know if I've ever seen maybe the Andy Reid years, you know what I mean? But like, I don't know if you've ever seen a game plan that was really quite, this. So you looked at it on paper and you went, yeah, like that's pretty it's pretty solid in every area. You know, now you just got to go take care of business.
Even when we won the Super Bowl, we had a nice team there. We didn't expect it going.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere. Though. Before the year, you felt like you were going to take a step forward, but yeah, you weren't thinking Super Bowl until about week 8 or 9.
And now looking back at that team was stacked. Of course, you had Wentz playing. You had Nick Foles catching lightning in the bottle with getting hot at the right time. You had 3 running backs that just killed it, with one of them who can't even make a roster now. And was it Coleman? He can't even make a roster now.
Corey Clement, Clement's not on the roster.
Clement, I meant. But you had
Jay Ajayi, dude, Jesus Christ. He showed up midway through the year, and then like 2 years later, his career was over.
And then we had LeGarrette Blount, who was just that.
Another guy 2 years later, his career was over.
Yeah,
my favorite LeGarrette Blount moment is still when he punched that kid from Boise State in the face after the college football game. Remember that? Oh, that was awesome. Yeah. Well, you talk shit, you get hit, Daniel. You know how it goes. Yeah, I mean, what the hell was that kid thinking?
We had our best tight end core. We had Selleck, we had Ertz, and then we had Trey Burton. We had Trey Burton, who was in the Philly play. We had a great offensive line. Who would have thought that we would have won a Super Bowl with high tie starting at left tackle for Jason Peters, but it worked. And then on defense, we had a defense that they might have given up yards and points, but they knew how to hold teams when they needed to. And then they played great at home, which was a big deal. Like on the road, it was a different story, but at home, they were almost unbeatable. And
on paper, this team is better than that team.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, would you agree?
Yeah, and then it's always going to come back to Jalen Hurts. I feel like always comes back to his play. He's going to be that piece that is like, okay, they're going to definitely win because he's on point, or it's going to be, they're a team that's in limbo because we have to figure out if he's still the guy, or okay, we're going to have to replace him because he's not playing. And we don't want to waste this roster that we have right now because of what he's doing. It's always going to come to that. I feel like he's going to do good. I feel like he's going to have a good year. Is he going to be a lot better than he was last year? We got to wait and see. But I've seen good.
It'll be much easier to see this year if he's holding the team back compared to last year, because you're with everything else around you. Those moments are going to become very obvious. They're going to pop out, and it's going to be very clear. Oh, look, he was open. He burned his guy, ran a great route. He's got 2 steps, and the throw's behind him, and it's not where it needs to be. And that's why that play's not successful. Those little things are going to stand out a lot more this year, and those are going to be the things that you notice.
Yeah, and you're not going to have a guy that's getting double because he's the only option on the team. You got Brown over here. You got Smith over here. Smith had a great year as a rookie last year, and then Brown was a top 10 wide receiver. You put that together, they're going to see single coverage because who are you going to double? You're going to double A.J. Brown, and then you're going to leave Devontae Smith single covered when you saw what he did last year, catching all those passes along the sideline. I don't think so. And he should be able to read and make the reads and get the right throw in. And then you even have Goddard, who, if Goddard played full time last year, he probably would have been a 1,000-yard receiver last year on top of that. So it just gives you a lot to work with as a whole. I like what the defense did. I like the fact that they picked up and got Gardner Johnson for absolutely nothing and allows that defense to play man coverage in the backfield. And with that, it's on the defensive coordinator now. It's on Gannon. Gannon has no excuses with that roster that they have right now to start the season.
I'm sorry, ridiculousness is fucking hilarious.
That's always
it's good stuff. Now, I mean, Jalen, I think Jalen will be fine. Jalen's going to put up numbers. That's why I feel like you really got to use your eyes and understand what you're watching from a football perspective to see exactly what's happening. Because Jalen will put up numbers, but you're at a position now where you're like, yeah, I need to, it's not just about you playing well. Oh, well, Jalen played well. Great. Well, plenty of quarterbacks can play well. We've got a roster that is a Super Bowl roster, and I'll say that. I'm not going to try to get anybody to sit here and start thinking Super Bowl. Should we be thinking, we could go win the Super Bowl? I'm not saying that, but you look at this roster, and it's a good enough roster. It's one of the better rosters in football. Top 5 roster in football? Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, both sides, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would say at this point. So I look at that and I go, yeah, that good of a roster, it's no longer just going to be, Jalen played well. Okay, great. Yeah, Jalen can play, he can play well. I need you to be able to play at a high enough level where you can go win me games in the playoffs, and I can have confidence that we can be a Super Bowl contender, going forward. That's that next step. I know you can get me to the playoffs. You did that last year, but then you fall flat on your face in the playoff game because that's when, the things that you don't do well, that's when they get exposed the most, is in situations like that. Now you're, against a good football team, they're in the playoffs, right? So now you're not just playing weak competition. This is a great team. They're going to be fully prepared to try to do whatever they've got to do to make sure that whatever it is that, what does he not do well? Okay, well, we're going to make sure that's, we're going to try to focus on that then. Take away whatever he does best and try to force him to do what he doesn't do, as well. And even when you look at guys like Lamar Jackson, who's in the middle of fighting for a new contract and all that, same issue he's running into with Baltimore in the playoffs is the fact that, whatever it is that, and he's gotten better in it, but the one thing he doesn't do at an elite level is be able to zip the ball around the field. If he has to do it 40, 50 times a game, he can't just zip it all around the field and just sit back in the pocket and do that, or at least proving that he can do it at an elite enough level yet where they can go, win, those games against the best teams in the playoffs. Although it seems like he's getting closer and closer to that, right? But you look at Jalen and you're like, he doesn't have all, Lamar's electric. Everything about him is electric, from his legs to his arm, all of it. Jalen isn't, Jalen's got good legs, but he's not electric the way Lamar is. The arm, no, same thing. It's not electric. He doesn't have the zip on the ball that Lamar does, different things like that, right? So you're like, hell, if Lamar Jackson's still struggling to be able to be that guy that's taking that next step, and you see he's fighting with the Ravens over whether or not, he should get, the big money extension that he wants, and the Ravens are in a position where, if you're the Ravens, you're trying to make him earn every penny of the $250 million or whatever the hell it is he's asking for. Earn every single penny of it, because you can't just commit that money to a guy who can get you to the AFC divisional round of the AFC Championship. You need to commit that money to a guy who can win you a Super Bowl.
And let's not forget, it took him 2 years to get to that point, because he didn't look like that his first year or two in the league, and he developed into that, and that's what we want to see with Hurts.
That's what you want to see that from Jalen. I can't have Jalen playing in any type of big game and have shit that happened like last year in the playoff game against Tampa, where we hear the coaching staff say, this guy can't read a defense. Keep mixing up our looks. He can't read the defense. That can't be a thing. I will never, ever, ever in the history of my lifetime as any sort of executive give you any sort of big money extension if I hear that with my own ear. Like, are you kidding me? No, I don't care. Until that's not a thing anymore, you're not getting an extension. I don't care what type of numbers you put up. I don't care how much the fan base loves you. I don't care about any of that nonsense. That scares the living hell out of me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You can't ask to be the franchise guy if that's what I'm hearing anytime you play against a team that is, worth the price of admission. Great. Anybody can go beat a bad football team, but you're going against elite competition, and this is what I'm hearing. No, that can't be a thing. That has to change this year. That has to be the thing. I know he can put up numbers. I know he can, the arm, the leg. I know it's all there. I know if he puts it all together, I know he can, he can perform on the field. But I need to see improvement in that area. I need you to go. I need you to go play Tampa in the playoffs this year, and I need to hear a soundbite of, man, good Lord, no matter what we throw at this guy, he's got an answer for it. See, I need to be the complete opposite. Yeah. I need that to 180. I need to hear a completely different soundbite, this year as opposed to what we heard last year. That's what I need to see too.
And I feel like with the roster now, how we have a great a 1-2 punch with the wide receivers. We have a top offensive line in the league, and we have a very good running game. I feel like now's the time where I feel like they can run that 2 tight end set with this offense a lot more, where you only have 2 wide receivers on the outside. You got Stoll here for blocking. You got a guard here, but then you got the running game, and you can keep the opposite team guessing more. You're not going to know.
I'd rather spread it out. I'd rather spread it out. You got all these weapons, spread it out. I don't need to run these stupid RPOs and shit like that. That's not getting me anywhere. Spread it out with all my weapons.
Not RPOs, but just running the damn ball down the other team's throat, and then play action and throw it to your wide receivers, to your weapons. Keep them guessing.
I mean, I can spread it out and run the ball too, and we might be more effective spreading it out and running it.
I like spreading it out, but there's a history of when you do that notoriously a lot that you're not going to win because teams read it well.
Do we even have a fullback? We don't even have a fullback, do we?
I think Stoll does both tight end and fullback.
Okay, so he'll be the guy that's acting. I mean, which is cool. That's good. I need my backup tight end to fill that role. But I mean, I guess for me, like I'm looking at it and going, I've got AJ Brown, right? I've got Devontae Smith. I know Quez Watkins can make plays. So I need I want those 3 those 3 need to be on the field in 90% of my passing situation.
I'm not even worried about Watkins.
I'm not running 2 wide receiver sets. That's nonsense.
Well, if you look at it, Watkins is probably the 5th option receiving rise because you're not going to throw the ball.
Bullshit.
You got AJ Brown, you got Devontae Smith, you got Dallas Goedert, you got any of those running backs. They're going to be one of your dependables on there, and then it's Quez Watkins.
Which one of my running backs is any sort of dependable receiving threat?
Kenneth Gainwell, right there.
Yeah, Kenny Gainwell's good, but unless he's starting, he's not going to be on the field enough to make a difference anyway. Now, hopefully, I have no problem with him stealing carries and stealing playing time from Miles Sanders. No issue with that at all. No. But no, I mean, Watkins, Watkins is a guy that you really started to see it last year. I think he has a breakout year this year, even more so now because he's going to be single covered a lot. Because that's the way that's going to have to go with both AJ Brown and Devontae Smith on the field, and him single covered. This is how that needs to work, and this is another thing that you need to see Jalen Hurts take the next step with. If you see Quez Watkins one-on-one with anybody, and he's running like some sort of seam route down the field, that's where that ball needs to go because there's not going to be any defensive back that can really keep up with him one-on-one on that type of route down the field. One-on-one, or some type of if there's no safety help over the top. I need you to be able to deliver a ball over the top, and that you need to go be able to that's where you need to take advantage of a big play sort of thing, right? We're not doing that's where you're going to try to sit there and set those big play opportunities up, and then when they're there, you need to take advantage of them. And Quez Watkins is a guy that's going to be that's your home run hitter. You need to hit those. Those home run opportunities are going to be there, and you need to take advantage of them when they are.
But what I'm saying is, I don't think he's going to get that many looks. I think he might get 2 or 3 looks.
Why wouldn't he? You're completely wasting it. Well, then you're completely wasting the entire idea of him being on your roster. You should be trying to set up as many of those looks as possible.
Yeah, but with what you said, you want Jalen Hurts to get maybe 25 to 30 passing attempts a game. How many are you going to get? Sure,
and then there's going to be games where he's going to have to throw the ball more because you're in a close game, and that's just the way it goes. But even if you're throwing the ball 25 to 30 times, there's no reason why you're not setting up your home run opportunities.
Yeah, you will. But I'm just saying, I only think he's going to get 2 or 3 throws a game, and those 2 or 3 throws probably will be home run balls because you already have Smith and then you got Brown on the outside. They're going to want to see the ball. You got Goddard in the inside. He's going to want to see the ball
again, but you're not. But neither one. They're not going to just. You're not just force feeding them just because they're there.
No, but they're going to.
You're throwing the open guy. Quez Watkins will be open a ton.
He's going to have his moments. He's definitely had his moments where he's going to get more. But I'm saying on a realistic week-to-week deal, he's likely only going to get 2, 3, maybe 4 looks a game because you got so many mouths to feed. Before it's just the name of the game.
Having mouths to feed is irrelevant. The only reason he should only get 3 to 4 looks a game would be because Jalen Hurts isn't understanding that he's fucking got one-on-one coverage with no safety help over the top, and the ball should go there 100% of the time in that situation. And Jalen doesn't trust himself to make the throw, so he throws the little 5-yard fucking crossing route to A.J. Brown, which is fine because a 5-yard crossing route to A.J. Brown is probably going to turn into a 12, 13-yard gain most of the time. So that's fine. But the point is, like, that it's also not fine because, like, those opportunities are there, and I need you to be able to deliver the ball when I can – when I've got Quez Watkins one-on-one with no safety help over the top. That's the whole point of having him, just trade the guy then. If you're not going to fucking sit there and try to exploit those opportunities, then what the fuck's the point of him being there? He doesn't, I'll see the ball 3 or 4 targets a game. You need to design it into your game plan for him to have, like, deliberately, like, he should see the ball 3 or 4 times a game by accident. I need to be designing plays for him to get the ball.
But what you're saying isn't aligning with what I'm saying. I'm saying he's probably only going to get 2 or 3 looks. He's going to get those looks downfield. But I'm saying he's not going to get the looks that Smith, Goddard, and Brown get. He's going to get less targets. Yeah, they're
going to be targeted double-digit times a game. But that doesn't mean that Quez Watkins only gets 3 looks a game. Like, that's ridiculous.
No, I think he's going to get 3 targets. And where
with 3 targets, again, that's ridiculous.
But it all depends on how many throws that Hurts has to make in a game. If it's only 20 to 25, just like I said, if it's limited, if it's more, then he's going to get more attempts. But if it's only the 20 to 25,
he's not going to throw the ball. I mean, he's not only going to throw the ball 25 to 30 times a game. Like, the way the league works, he'll end up throwing the ball 40 times a game. Just because that's the way it goes. Ideally, you'd like him to throw the ball 25 times a game, but that's not happening.
With the team's running game and how they were one of the top in the league last year, and then him having weapons now, they might be winning to the point where he doesn't have to throw 30 games. How many times did he touch 30 games in the last 7 games, 30 passes in the last 7 games of the year last year? I think maybe once, and that's because of the running game. And we could be more balanced attack. We might have to throw it. We might do. If we have to throw it more, yeah. Quez Watkins is going to see more. I'm just going off of what I saw from him last year, where he started out great and then he fell off towards the last half of the season, and he only finished with 1 or 2 touchdowns. And that's with less competition last year. But now we've added A.J. Brown to the team.
Yeah, but it's not about less competition. It's what adding A.J. Brown actually helps your ability now, because now you're going to be open a lot more. There's less attention on you, and
but I'm saying
you're also going into like a year as a receiver where it's like now you kind of start figuring it all out. Last year there was moments where it was a pleasant surprise that he was as good as he was, but that's not the case this year. He's your third receiver. Like, no third receiver in football just gets 3 targets a game. That's fucking ridiculous.
Well, you got to remember that the third receiver on the team is the tight end, and he's is it anymore? Is it at this point? Yeah, he might as well be with how the tight end position is now. The tight end position, like, you do have the slot guy, but usually on teams that I see that have great slot guys, they don't have a top tier tight end. Like, even look at Kansas City. You can't think of who their slot guy is because they had Tyreek Hill, they had Kelsey, and then they had Holman on the outside. You couldn't name who that slot guy was last year.
Dallas Goedert's also not Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce lines up like a wide receiver and goes and dominates somebody in a one-on-one predicament. Dallas Goedert doesn't do that.
No, but he produced like a top 10 tight end last year, and he could have done more.
Yeah, he's top 10, sure.
But we had Zach Ertz.
You're talking about 4 guys, though. We're talking about 4 guys: A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Quez Watkins. That's not too many mouths to feed. Like, they should all get plenty of fucking balls their way.
They could, but who's going to be the guy that gets the least out of it? Quez Watkins. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, depending on the game, I don't know. I mean, some games, again, exploit your mismatches, exploit your coverages,
And just like I said, he's going to have the ball to the open guy. He's going to have his good guys. But like I said, with last year, he had more looks last year because he was a starter. Now he's not a starter. He's in the slot. He's still going to play, but I still feel like he's going to see less than he did last year. He might
this guy fucking put a ladder hold on. This dude this guy. Remember one of those old folding picnic tables that you used to have, like at Boy Scout camp? It's like a folding plastic picnic table, and then he put a fucking ladder on top of it, and he was trying to climb the ladder to whatever the fuck he was trying to get to, and the ladder slid off from the fucking picnic table, and he crashed and burned. It was hilarious, actually.
Let's transition. I got two news topics in the NFL to talk about before we wrap things up in the next 10 minutes. The first is Jimmy G's contract. We saw the other day that he restructured with his contract, so he's going to stay with San Fran for at least this season. Does that say anything to you, or is it just the fact that they didn't have anybody to give to train him to, and then he didn't really have any spots to go to, so it was kind of like just might as well stay if you're not going to start anywhere type of situation. And then,
well, I mean,
we got you as insurance in case Lance plays bad.
Well, that's exactly what it is. I mean, like, they've got a good enough roster where, you know, even more so this year, the Seahawks are going to take a big step back. So it's them and the Rams, you know, really, like, that's the Cardinals. The Cardinals will be competitive too, but you know how I feel about the Cardinals.
They're a team that
I don't like Kyler. We both don't like Kyler Murray. I also hate Cliff Kingsbury. You like Cliff Kingsbury. And until I see otherwise, you know, I think the Cardinals are pretenders. So if you're the Niners, they're looking at it as, you know, they need to make sure that they don't put themselves in a position where, you know, Trey Lance struggles, and now all of a sudden they can't be as competitive as they know they can be just because this is what they're stuck with at quarterback. And they know what they can be with Jimmy G because they've been there, you know, they've been that in the past, right? They've been that, you know, they know where he's taken them before. So at the very least, it's one of these things of like, you know, you were a playoff team last year. You were a game away from going back to the Super Bowl. And you know what, you know, your roster's just as good, you know, Deebo Samuel's back, you know, so like it's one of, you know, it's one of these things where you've got a great roster and you understand that. So you've just got to try to make sure you're taking care of, you know, like you said, insurance policies, I guess, and he's an insurance policy, but it's a, you know, this deal much better for them than what his previous deal was. And, you know, it is what it is. Watch, you know, at some point it's gonna pay dividends. At some point this year, something will happen, and Jimmy G's gonna end up playing quarterback for them again. So, yeah, it's just the way that things work.
That kind of happened last year, where Lance got hurt, I believe, for a game or two, and then they had to put in Jimmy G, and then you couldn't take him out because he got on a hot streak. Whether he played well, the team played great behind him, and it was just like he's the type of guy. He's not flashy. He might not do great stat-wise, but when it comes to to down the stretch and then the playoffs, he just wins. He finds a way to win somehow because he manages the game well. He does just enough not to lose and gives you a chance to win. And with the Arizona's a team. Every year of the last 3 years, they started 6-1, 6-0, and then once they hit week 8 or 9, or in November, that's when Arizona starts to fall. They have a horrible record after Halloween hits, and for whatever reason,
that's also Cliff Kingsbury MO as a head coach, though. He's always been, going back to his days as a Texas Tech head coach. He's always been a shitty second half coach.
And you got to go into the season now.
Go look at his records in like November and shit in college football.
Yeah, no, it's the same. But then you got to watch. They did get Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, but then Hopkins is suspended for the first 6 games of the season, so you don't have him. So you're going to rely on Brown, who is notorious for dropping a lot of passes. They're banking on the fact that these two played with each other at Oklahoma for 4 seasons, so they already have that wrappered. But then I feel like last year's team was better than this year's team. Not by much, but then with Hopkins out, that's a lot. So you got to hope that once you get to Hopkins coming back, that your team's still doing good with that great early start that you have. But you got the Rams; they're going to be hot. You got, like you said, Seahawks; they're going to be in rebuild. But then you got the San Fran. I'm saying this now. I do agree. At some point, you're going to see Jimmy G in there, but they have a roster. I think they're a playoff caliber team right now. Yeah, and I think they're going to. I think they could make another deep run, and I think having Jimmy G there is going to help them out when Lance can't play because he's hurt. Because he's the type of guy. Lance is going to develop as a thrower, but when he runs, and he tends to get hurt because he takes too much damage from getting hit. He doesn't know when to slide. He doesn't know when to avoid the damage. He just dives, runs the outside. He gets hurt. And you want a guy that can throw in the pocket that's not going to get hurt, that's going to be able to go behind him to change things up. And Jimmy G's the guy right now. He's the guy to plug in where you can kind of change your offense. You got that running game. You already have that running game. Every year it seems like that offense can take a running back that's no name and produce. You got
that's a Shanahan thing. It's been that way since that's a generational thing in the Shanahan family. It just got passed down from Mike to Kyle.
Yeah, and we've seen the guy that was the coordinator there that moved to Miami, how he picked up Chase Edmonds because he wants him to be the Deebo Samuel in Miami because they're similar style. Because Deebo's going to see his running back looks, he's going to see his wide receiver looks any way that they can get him the ball as much as possible. But then you have Ayuk, who got hot last year. You got a healthy George Kittle. You got a pretty good line. And then you got that defense that, when healthy, is one of the best in the league. I think it was
the Niners' issue has always been injuries, right? Like over the past few years.
To that defense, especially that defense. But even with the injuries, they're a team that were 7-9 with injuries. So that tells you a lot about that team and how they're built. And then they kind of got lucky that even though Deshaun Watson got suspended, he got suspended later, and then the Browns chose to just stick with Jacoby Brissett. And anywhere else that kind of had any quarterback issues, like Pittsburgh, you had Kenny Pickett, who played well in the preseason. They haven't announced who their starter is yet between Pickett and what's his name? Trubisky, but you have a good feeling that it could be Kenny Pickett. And then you had Carolina, they traded for Baker Mayfield. You had situations where you thought that he might have been able to be traded there, and those turned out differently. So it allowed them to kind of keep him on a 1-year deal. And I think it works out perfectly for him. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a mutual thing that's going to help both of them, because I feel like he's going to come in there, improve his stock, and it's going to give him an opportunity for next year, because I do feel like Lance is going to get hurt at some point.
Yeah, I mean, if the Niners stay healthy, it's one of these things. The Rams kind of like sold out and did everything, to win the Super Bowl, and that finally happens last year. And you're like, how do you top that? You probably don't. You probably take a little bit of a step back. They're still a really good team, obviously. But, yeah, I mean, the Niners could win the NFC West. They definitely could. They got the roster to do it. They stay healthy. It would be like one of those things where, like, the last time they stayed healthy for a full year, they went to the Super Bowl. So, it's like, one of those things. It's one of those things like the NFL, like every year, like, things seem to like, it's just, things change, and it's a year-to-year league, and it seems hard to like go back and like repeat, as like a divisional winner, different types of things like that. So like, it might be like smart money to sit there and say, the Niners go win the West this year, because the Seahawks aren't going to win it. I don't think the Cardinals are going to win it, but I guess they could too. But yeah, I mean, I like the Niners roster much better than the Cardinals. I think for them, it all comes down to health.
And with how San Fran played the Rams last year, and how they, in every game that those two teams played, it was competitive. I think the Rams are the favorite, but don't be surprised if somehow the Niners were able to win that division, because of
the Niners beat the Rams twice last year. The Niners beat the Rams twice in the regular season, and then the Rams got them in the AFC title game.
In the fourth quarter, they came back, I believe, and beat the Niners, who were winning that game. And that would have been crazy to see the Niners beat the Super Bowl again with Jimmy G, because then they would have had a big dilemma with Trey Lance. But one of my last points I want to make before we wrap things up, I'm going to make a bold prediction. It's not very bold, but I think it's going to happen sooner than later. That the 3 rookie quarterbacks are going to be starting by week 7, because I feel like Pickett's going to. I think Pickett's going to win the starting job because he played great in the preseason. They like what they've seen. He's done a lot in camp, and you want to be able to have a young guy come in and develop early, and I think he's done that.
Yeah, like there's no reason for him to sit the bench. He just looks like a guy that's ready to play at the NFL level.
Yeah.
I think they'll go with Trubisky just because they signed him for that reason, and then they'll let Trubisky lose the job. And then like once he loses the job, it's like, okay, here you go, kid. But I'm with you.
Even then,
if you're ready to play and you're a young quarterback, he's ready to play. Throw him out there, let him be the guy. Like, you're the starter. Fuck you, Mitchell Trubisky. You stink. We know what are you going to turn into John Elway now that you're out of Chicago? Yeah. Like, fuck off.
My big bold one with the rookies is I think by week 7, Malik Willis is going to be starting over Tannehill in Tennessee. I feel like the writing's on the wall. If they don't get up to a good start, and Willis showcased a lot with his running in the preseason. He had the one game where he had 80 yards rushing, and then he even showed a little bit of what he can do with his arm. Yes, he's going to make mistakes here and there as a rookie, but you have a roster that seems to be getting turned over. Like, you trade A.J. Brown, and then you drafted Treylon Burks in his spot. You draft Willis. Willis was a first-round talent that you got drafted in, I think, round 3 or 4. So you got value out of it, and he played pretty good in preseason. I feel like it's a situation where you had a guy in Tannehill who I'm comparing to Flynn with Seattle, but then you had Willis who showcased himself in preseason because he was able to, and the team might be like, okay, if we're not winning, why not go to him if we're not winning? He can run the ball. You got Derrick Henry behind him who's going to run the ball 30 times a game. With the hit that we've taken at the wide receiver position, we might have to be a team that runs heavy and even more than we did last year because they don't have Julio anymore. They don't have A.J. Brown anymore. Their receiving core is not as good, and I think because of that, Tannehill's going to take a step back, and because of that, I feel like they're going to probably lose a little bit early, and they might make the decision sooner to change up the offensive scheme to a more run-heavy based than they are used to, and where they can use Willis as like a running quarterback and throw on the go. Kind of like what Jackson did his rookie year with the Ravens, how they brung him in and they had like a shortened package with them because they were losing, and then they come in and it kind of jolted the team a little bit, where they were able to bring him in and just keep a condensed playbook for him. And then I think it's going to happen sooner or later, especially I believe they have a rough start to their season. And then the third guy, I love what I've seen from Desmond Ridder. I thought he was from Cincinnati. He's with Atlanta. I think Atlanta's going to be a shit show this year. They're probably going to win 3 games. They had Mariota. I don't think he's anything special right now. I think they're going to be maybe 1 win by week 7, and they're going to be like, okay, we like what we saw from Ridder. We can bring him in there and then see what he's got, because they drafted him in the 3rd round. He had a great preseason. He had a couple game-winning drives, even though it was against second and third team. It's third-teamers. You got a very young team there. He has Pitts. They just drafted Drake London. It sucks that they don't have Calvin Ridley this year. They got the offensive line, and then of course Cordarrelle Patterson. I think that they wind up going to him because they're not going to win with Mariota, and you might as well see what you got in that 3rd round pick in Ridder, who had a really hot preseason. So I think at some point they're going to go to him and see if he can be the guy or not for the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tannehill stinks. So I mean, whatever. Whatever. Like, I don't know if they'll make the move to Willis at that, quite yet at that point. I kind of see more like Willis, like it's at this point, like Tannehill is probably the guy this year, but then they move on this offseason and they'll they go to Willis at some point next year. He'll probably see some time late in the year. I wouldn't put money that it happens by week 7, but yeah, I mean, like at some point, if they struggle enough, definitely would happen. I mean, if they're in playoff contention, it'll probably be hard for them to make the move from it. But yeah, you'd have to think they're going to try to find a way at least to get Willis on the field at some point and get him some action. They drafted him with the idea that he's like, they think he can be the guy going forward, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Ritter, I like Ritter, and I'm with you in Atlanta. It's like a situation where they're just so bad. You're just like, why not see what you've got, in that situation. Pickett, I mean, Pittsburgh, they don't have losing seasons. They haven't had one under Tomlin. And, I think they're competitive again, 8 or 9 games, whatever, I don't think they're like, going to win 12 games and go win the division and be a Super Bowl contender or anything. But yeah, they'll win like 8, 9, maybe 10 games. And yeah, Trubisky, that's the one I like the most by week 7. By week 7, Kenny Pickett's the starter. I don't know if he's the starter right away, but yeah, Mitchell Trubisky loses the job by week 7, put it that way. It's funny, you looked at it, people are like, oh, well, Trubisky played well. Like, yeah, sure he did. Like, and Pickett played well too. I don't know. Like, was either one of them better than the other? I don't know. They was pretty similar. But at that point, then I'm going with Trubisky just because he's the young kid that I drafted. I mean, I'm going with Pickett just because he's the young kid that I drafted. And like Trubisky can go sit on the bench and be my backup because, like, I'm not a fan of drafting young quarterbacks and then having them like when they're ready, they're ready. Like, and once they're ready, you let them play. Like, I'm not a fan of just being like, oh well, like. I know you went and signed Trubisky just because you didn't know what was going to be the deal at the quarterback position, and you had to make sure you at least had something ready. That's pretty much what you're in. But then you drafted Pickett because it was a great situation. He felt you in a good spot, and you made the move. You don't have to like show some sort of loyalty to like Mitchell Trubisky. Like that's a weird thing to me. Like I'm riding with the kid because the kid looks ready to play. So Kenny Pickett's going to be my guy.
And on top of that, you drafted him in the first round, and you want to kind of if he's having a good camp and he's playing good, why bench him? Why not start him if he's playing great?
If you look at him, I mean, he makes all the back shoulder throws. Like, there's just all these things about him that you go, you're NFL ready. He's not some 21-year-old kid that like is coming in. Like Trey Lance was 21 or whatever it is when the Niners drafted him. You're like, yeah, you got some room to grow. Kenny Pickett's 24. You're NFL ready. You're already a guy that's like mature. You understand what it's like to be an NFL quarterback and the maturity side of it and the preparation and all that. And the back shoulder throws, that was already something you saw last year, his final year at Pitt. You could see him be, you're like, yeah, that's one of the things I was like, you've heard me talk for a year now about how I think, or at least since late in the college season last year, about how I think the guy was the best quarterback prospect in the draft because of things like that. When you understand how to throw a ball to your receiver's back shoulder when he's covered to his inside, and you understand, okay, if I throw the ball to his back shoulder, he's going to be able to make adjust to it and make the catch, and you can perfectly place that ball, on the back shoulder, and you're a rookie quarterback. Those are things that you go, you just get it. You understand, you're ready to step on the field right now and lead this football team, and I don't care what they're paying Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah. And look at how young they are in skill positions. On top of Pickett, who's a rookie, you just drafted Pickens at wide receiver. You got Johnson, who played great last year. You got Claypool, who has shown that he's good. He's been bad, but he's shown that he can be really good. You got Pat Freiermuth at tight end, who was a rookie last year. You're very young at that skill positions all over. Why not let him grow with them instead of having him wait? Because then if he gets good, that just is a big jump start to that young offensive side of the ball where they're trying to and then I'd even mention Najee Harris, who was a rookie last year too. So you even had him who was a rookie last year. So that's like almost 5 or 6 guys like skill position wise that are either a rookie or in their second or third year. That's great for a team like that who made the playoffs last year somehow. We don't know how, but they did. and then the big thing is they have the defense that is going to be top 3 at times. That's going to be able to carry that team while they're gelling together.
Phenomenal, you're not just got a good defense, you've got one of the best defensive players in football on your roster. So, I mean, it's a weird situation there. It'll play itself out, but it's a little bit weird. They went through this with Roethlisberger when he was a rookie, where they had Tommy Maddox as the quarterback. What a story that was. Remember when he initially drafted by Denver when Elway was there, because Elway was feuding with Dan Reeves, and then he ended up being drafted in the first round, and they never ended. Elway was so good, you never ended up getting the chance to take Elway's job. Amazing how they drafted they drafted a quarterback in the first round, thinking that John Elway was how the hell do you that? Jesus Christ, that was a ridiculous situation to have to live through back then. Think about that if you were a Broncos fan in the early '90s. Think that John Elway wasn't good enough, and we don't know if this guy's going to be the guy going forward. He was 3 years removed from an MVP award. But Maddox went to the XFL or whatever and came back and had that good year with the Steelers, and then they rode with him in 2004 when Roethlisberger was a rookie. But then by week 8 or whatever, they had switched to Roethlisberger week 4. So I don't know. It didn't take long. But I mean, that could play out similarly this year, where Trubisky kind of is the guy initially, but it doesn't take long for Pickett to step in and kind of prove, I should have been the guy all along, and we could be really good with me as the guy.
Well, the first 3 games against the Bengals, Patriots, and Browns, you got the Jets, but then you got the Bills, Bucks, Dolphins, Eagles, and then a bye. So you could be right where it could be that 7th or 8th game coming out of the bye at 3-5 or 3-4, something like that, because you have tough teams to play. And if they did name Trubisky, then they're like, we're at the bye. Let's make a switch. Let's see if they'll be
0-2 out of the gates, and they'll be 0-2 out of the gates, and Pickett will be starting by week 3.
And I could see that too. Or he could just start from the start. There's a lot. That's why he's not telling anybody now, because he doesn't need to. Tomlin doesn't need to tell anybody. He's going to wait until the last day, and then he's going to pull. And then you're going to see a lot of people draft on the fantasy team Pickett because they're like, he's going to start. And then he's going to be like, no, I'm going to go with Trubisky.
What week do they play the Browns? Week 4?
I think week 4. And no, week 3. And it's on Thursday. It's on Thursday night.
Yeah, he won't. He probably wouldn't start on Thursday night, but they Trubisky. They go 0-2 out of the gates, and then if Trubisky struggles in that week 3 game against Cleveland, I bet you Pickett could be the guy going into week 4. You got a long week coming out of week 3, extra time to prepare. I could see Pickett being the guy by week 4 if Trubisky struggles early.
Yeah, but other than that, I guess that'll wrap things up for tonight. We're almost at 2.5 hours right now. I'll let you get the last word and wrap things up.
Yeah, I mean, it's not much more to talk about with it, but next week will be two days before next Tuesday. The NFL season starts next Thursday, so we'll have an NFL preview show, I guess, sort of thing.
We can go game by game with the Eagles season and give our opinions for each game, and then do that. Of course, we're going to talk the Phillies, and we'll see where they're at this point next week, if they broke out of this Arizona slump afterwards against San Fran, and then see where they are position-wise, and then we'll see what else is up after Labor Day.
Yeah, see how everything plays out, but throughout the rest of the week, Jesus, I can't get my phone to stay straight as you try to sign off.
Yeah.
Throughout the rest of the week, make sure you check out all of the other HUD content, all of our shows. Make sure you like and subscribe to all of our social media pages and our YouTube channel. Yes, hit the damn like and subscribe. Exactly, Daniel, right on time. And so always here, the weekly roundup brought to you by eXp Realty and our man Alan Foy, who's getting settled down in Delaware, but told me earlier that as soon as he's settled down in Delaware with his new gig down there as the athletic director and head basketball coach at Cross Christian, he's going to come back on here in a couple weeks as we get into football season and join us. So we'll have a good time with that.
We got to get them on week 2 when they're playing the Vikings on prime time. The Vikings Eagles.
Yeah, there you go. That sounds good. Exactly. Perfect time to do it. And remember, if you're looking to buy or sell a home or looking for a change of career brokerage, you contact Alan Foy of eXp Realty LLC at 302-682-8820 or visit them at alan.foy@exprealty.com. I'm Zach. That's Daniel. This has been the Weekly Roundup. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.